Welcome everyone to the Lorain County Urban League's almost annual, we missed last year, Diversity and Inclusion Conference, including all of our friends who are with us on Zoom, which I don't see them, but I think they could see us. So welcome everyone. We're just delighted to have you here. I'm Cindy Kushner. I serve as the Director of School and Community Partnerships here at Lorain County Community College, your host site. I have the tremendous honor of serving as the board chair here for the Lorain County Urban League. I have the chance to work very closely with our fabulous leader, Paris Smith. All of you probably know her, and her awesome team. Many who are pretty busy right now, but if you can give a quick wave, we have Miss Ruthie D. Baker, our Achilles Morales, Arnitha Shannon, Kashayla Smith, Blake Furcron, and of course, Susie Dill over there in the corner. Thank you, team. We really appreciate you, and thank you for making all of this possible. I'm also joined here by several board members, many who maybe aren't here today, but I want to acknowledge them as well. We have Mike Thomas, Catherine Roskobnik, Charlita Anderson-White, Sharon Furcron. I did see Sharon. Wave, please. Sharon, there you are. Sylvia Duvall. There she is. Steve Harmon. Britt, I saw Britt somewhere. There she is. Britt Lovett. John Monteleone. Linda, I think I saw Linda as well. Linda Hottree. So thank you, board members. I also want to give a big shout out to our guild. I saw several of you floating around here. We love our guild, appreciate our guild. They help make so much happen for us. So I want you all to give a quick wave too. Several hands, thank you, thank you. We appreciate you. So I'd like to give a round of applause for all those supporters. Thank you. For those of you who don't know, we will be joined today. I also want to thank all of you for joining us today and your participation in our conference. I think you're really going to enjoy what we have today. We're particularly honored to be joined by our keynote speaker, who is the best-selling author and professor, and he works at the Clark Atlanta University School of Business, Dr. Dennis Kimbro. And we'll be hearing a lot more about him and from him shortly, but he will be joining us here just shortly. Thank you. We're grateful to all of you who make our life-changing and often life-saving work here at our Lorain County Urban League possible. In particular, we want to thank our generous sponsors of this conference, Mercy Health Partners, who I shared last evening in our reception, literally saved my dad's life just this week, so I'm particularly grateful to them. The Huntington Bank and Lorain County Community College, and most especially our presenting sponsor, State Farm Insurance. And I think we have several of representatives from State Farm here today. If you want to give a wave, if you're with State Farm, thank you, thank you. We appreciate you. With that, for those of you who don't know, our Lorain County Urban League affiliate is in its 43rd year of serving this community here in Lorain County. We continue our work focusing on strengthening our community and those we serve by changing lives in a positive direction. We do this through robust direct services and programming centered on our pillars, which are education and youth development, housing and financial empowerment, workforce development, entrepreneurship, civic engagement and advocacy, and health and wellness. Next, it is with great pleasure that I introduce to you our Mistress of Ceremonies, who is my friend and former intern, the extremely talented Lydia. Miss Lydia Lee is the proud parent of her wonderful, wonderful daughter, Ramaya, who is now a senior, which I can't even believe, at her alma mater, Elyria High School. As a non-traditional student of LCCC's University Partnership, Miss Lydia Lee graduated from the University of Akron, earning her bachelor's degree in exercise science. Ms. Lydia serves as the Secretary Treasurer of the African Community Affiliate Fund of the Community Foundation of Lorain County. Lydia serves as a program manager of Common Ground in Oberlin, where her focus is on providing summer camp and character building programming to the youth of Lorain County. Before I invite Lydia up, I've missed a little part of my program. I want to make sure I recognize our elected officials who are very kind in joining us today and participating with us, and who offer a tremendous amount of support to the work we do. So please pardon me. And in recognizing our House of Representative Joe Miller, if you could give us a little wave. Mayor Brian Jensen from the City of Avon. Mayor Jack Bradley, accompanied by his wife Deborah from the City of Lorain. Thank you. Did I miss anyone? Oh, Tim Williams is representing the City of Elyria. If you could give a wave to Tim, thank you. Did I miss anyone? Please introduce. Thank you, Diane. Diane Simmons from the 5th Ward Council. Thank you. And again, many thanks for your support and for joining us today. One last thing about Lydia. Lydia is also very, very talented, a very, very talented musician. And at times, some of you may have seen her out at festivals playing with various bands. And also, I follow her on Facebook, and she often treats me with her talents. So Lydia, please take over from here, and hopefully we'll get to hear some of her talents shortly. Thank you, everyone.
Howdy, sugars. How are y'all today? Good, good. Can you hear me well? Awesome. I'm so glad. Thank you, Cindy, so much for that introduction. I am so honored to be here with all of you wonderful folks. I have a wee bit to read, so if you would allow me that opportunity, I would appreciate it. Okay, so today we're focusing on destination financial wellness. We have a dynamic keynote speaker and a phenomenal lineup of experienced panelists. Even though African Americans make a significant economic contribution in the United States, their financial wellness lags behind that of the rest of the country. Numerous economic indicators highlight this disparity, such as median household income, net worth, and the likelihood of carrying student loan debt. The reasons behind these financial wellness gaps are complex, and there was a study done by TIAA Institute. It highlights new insights from the TIAA Institute-GFLEC Personal Finance Index. We'll call it the PFIN Index, okay? So here's some information from there. The PFIN Index measures 8 key areas of personal finance knowledge: earning, consuming, saving, investing, borrowing and managing debt, ensuring, comprehending risk and uncertainty, and go-to information sources. According to the report, African American adults answered 38% of the PFIN index questions correctly, compared to 55% of white adults. African Americans scored highest in the areas of borrowing and debt management, but scored lowest on questions related to insuring. African Americans scored comparatively low on questions related to comprehending risk, investing, and identifying go-to information sources. The report states that the low levels of financial literacy in insuring and comprehending risk are especially troubling. While not a cure-all, the Urban League believes increased financial literacy can lead to improved financial capability and practices that benefit even those with relatively low incomes. We also believe that the future initiatives that aim to bridge these gaps must better target the needs of specific demographic subgroups if they are to be successful. As you can see, financial empowerment is critical for our underserved communities. I hope you all are ready to learn key tools to Wait a minute, hold on. I didn't write this, sugars. So give me a second. I hope you all are ready to learn some key information and some tools that can help you on your individual financial wellness journey. Cool beans?
Well, good morning. I am Victor Terry, Vice President of Public Affairs and Chief Diversity Officer at State Farm. It is a true honor and a privilege for State Farm to be represented here in today's event and to be the presenting sponsor. It's a really important part of our mission to help support events like this in the National Urban League. State Farm's mission is to help people manage the risks of everyday life, recover from the unexpected, and to realize their dreams. And we see it as our responsibility to help build safer, stronger, more resilient, and better educated communities. And being here today is certainly a part of that. State Farm has had a national partnership with the National Urban League for over 25 years, since 1995. And we are proud here, especially to be here today to support the Lorain County chapter of the National Urban League, affiliate of National Urban League in today's Diversity and Inclusion Conference. It's also a privilege for us to continue to work alongside nonprofits and support the communities that our employees live in, our independent contractors live in, and that they support every day. And so with that being said, there's a couple of things I want to do. State Farm, I've been with State Farm 23 years. And if you talk to a lot of State Farm people, you'll find a lot of people have been around for a while. There's a lot of tenure, and there's a reason for that. State Farm is a great organization that helps people grow and develop, do well in communities, and provide an economic opportunity. But everything that you see our brand do, everything you see this 3 oval logo represent starts in one particular place. And that's our independent contractor State Farm agents. They are the ones that are the spark and that create that connection between this big brand and our local communities. We have several State Farm agents with us this morning, so I would love for them to stand for just a moment and be recognized so that we can see who you are. So if you're a State Farm agent, please stand up for just a moment. Thank you. There are a lot of definitions of heroes. We have some first responders here this morning. They are certainly our heroes, but I will tell you, our State Farm agents are unsung heroes in their communities. The things that they do and what they support and how they help folks realize their dreams is really unmatched in the industry. There's no one that even comes close, in my opinion. Now, we have a couple of folks here of the table on the right, Matt and Elizabeth. They are they're helping us support today's event. And they're also State Farm recruiters. So you heard me mention a phrase that many of you may not be aware of. So our State Farm agents are independent contractor agents, which means they're essentially small business owners. They are entrepreneurs. They get to direct their daily activities and decide how they make the most of their opportunity in their community. They are in business for themselves, but not by themselves. And so if you know of an individual or you yourself might be interested in a State Farm opportunity, please see Matt and Elizabeth, and they would love to share some information with you so that you or someone you know may want to be one of the heroes in your local community. We have several other State Farm representatives here today, some executives, and I'll just close out by saying thank you for having us. Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to be a sponsor. We're looking forward to a great event. One more thing I want to do before I have a seat is really the person that's been the linchpin for our connection to today's event is Raleigh Stevens. And Raleigh had a lot to do with pulling together the support both in today's event and other ways that our local State Farm agents have given to the Lorain County of the National Urban League. So Raleigh, special shout out to you. Thanks for all you're doing. There's one word I use to describe Raleigh, and that's thorough. And there's a that word has multiple contexts that you can apply, and he's thorough. Thank you, Raleigh. Thank you for having us, and we're looking forward to a great event.
I don't think that people understand unless you have a friend that can help you understand. I don't think people understand how Black Americans move through society. So a story that I shared was about walking to the ATM from my house one morning. It's a 15-minute walk, and I shouldn't have to worry about that. It was 6:30 in the morning, and the thing that was most on my mind was, what if a police officer drives by and sees me? What is going to happen?
You have a subculture that is dealing with incidents every day, maybe some microaggressions, maybe some major incidents. And the main culture, the white culture, can't see the progression of incidents that is going on. And so when something like George Floyd happens, they're shocked that this could happen.
When we see it on TV, when we hear about it, when it's directed at us, it just chips away at our emotional state. And it really is exhausting to be Black in America.
Once you get past the sadness and the fear, it's very easy to let yourself fall into a despair of, when is this ever going to change? What do we have to do? You know, who do we have to talk to? Who do we have to marshal to come alongside of us so that our boys can just live? And if you're not careful, that'll be a very, very heavy weight for you. But at the end of all of those emotions, what comes back to you is this. This is a fight I will fight for the rest of my life. Not only for my boys, but for every person of color who finds themselves in this situation. You see, I don't get to get tired. I don't get to be tired.
So allyship is key. Nothing is going to move forward with any type of pace or significance unless everyone is in this fight and everyone speaks out against racism and social injustice.
I remember the pain of having no one to stand up for me. But as fate would have it, my childhood taught me the importance of allyship. As neighbors, it is our responsibility to use our platform for those who feel unseen, unheard, and unimportant, to have a platform.
So I think State Farm's doing a good job. They're creating places for us to have these conversations. They're encouraging the conversations. They're giving employees information that they may or may not have had beforehand. I was just saying to my team the other day that if we do nothing else but consider someone else's experience or consider someone else's point of view based on what might have happened the night before, the week before, the month before, I think we'll be in a better place.
Thank you to everyone who had the opportunity to speak and share such encouraging words. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your consistent presence at these events. We really, really appreciate it. And thank you to State Farm for sharing such an honest reflection of what we experience in our culture. Thank you to the Urban League for having this discussion and this presentation today. I'm excited for what's about to come regarding financial wellness. Are you guys excited? Ooh, yay! Wonderful. Okay, so, and now, here to introduce our keynote speaker is one of my dearest sugars, Sharon D. Furcron. Sharon is a member of the Board of Directors for the Lorain County Urban League, where she serves as the chair of the governance committee. Sharon has over 30 years' experience in supply chain management and currently serves as senior manager for Fortune Brands Global Plumbing Group. Please join me in welcoming Sharon Furcron.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, Lydia, for the introduction. And I too would like to applaud State Farm, not only for the video, but you can always tell a company's commitment to diversity when you have a C-suite executive and his title has diversity in it. So you know their commitment. And I applaud you and thank you very much for your sponsorship. As well as to the Urban League, thank you as well for bringing this dynamic speaker to us this morning. As I started reading about Dr. Kimbro, I thought I'm running out of time and there's so many things to talk about. A tireless educator, best-selling author, and business school professor, Dr. Dennis Kimbro is universally characterized as an authority on leadership, wealth, and success. Dr. Kimbro received his bachelor's and master's degrees from the University of Oklahoma. He later earned his PhD in political science at Northwestern, researching wealth and poverty in underdeveloped countries. Dr. Kimbro wrote Think and Grow Rich, a Black Choice as an update and extension of the work of Napoleon Hill, who wrote the 1937 bestseller, Think and Grow Rich, after researching the practices of highly successful persons, and who left at his death an unfinished manuscript directed towards African Americans. Dr. Kimbro was commissioned by the Napoleon Hill Foundation to complete the manuscript. Published in 1991, Kimbro and Hill's book became a #1 bestseller. Dr. Kimbro has had several corporate customers for his lectures. He's also appeared on television shows, including Today, CNN's Larry King Live. He's appeared on Roland Martin's podcast. And as a nod towards entrepreneurship, he has his own Dennis Kimbro TV on YouTube. He's also been listed as Who's Who in Black America, a recipient of the Dale Carnegie Achievement Award, and a past director of the Center of Entrepreneurship at Clark Atlanta University. In 1996, he served as one of the 8 national judges for the prestigious Ernst & Young USA Today Entrepreneur of the Year. Kimbro is the author of What Makes the Great Great, The Wealth Choice, Success Secrets of Black Millionaires, Daily Motivation for African-American Success, including inspirations from famous African-American achievers, What Keeps Me Standing, Letters from Black Grandmothers on Peace, Hope, and Inspiration, and his new book, Daily Devotion for Entrepreneurs. Dr. Kimbro lives in Atlanta. He's the father of 3 daughters, and you can follow him on Facebook, Twitter, or as I said before, Dennis Kimbro TV. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Dennis Kimbro.
Sharon, thank you very much for that introduction. You make me feel special. I'll tell you how special I am. Let's rewind the videotape 30 years, go back when my first book, Think and Grow Rich, A Black Choice, was released. First interview I gave Urban League, I'm on the Today Show. The book wasn't even out for 1 week. And so my publicist and everybody take me to One Rockefeller Center up on the 30th floor, Today Show Studios, sit me in the green room, and I'm watching guests file one by one out on the set, and they're being interviewed. I guess about an hour and a half goes by, the executive producer comes in the room and says, okay, Dennis, you're up next. Well, I get up out of the green room, I go in the room, I look in this mirror, I want to make sure that my jacket is straight, my tie is straight, my hair is combed. I want to put my best foot forward in front of all the viewers. While I'm in this room, a woman comes in and she says, "You're the guy who wrote that book, aren't you?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "How long did it take you?" I said, "It took me about 7 years." She said, "Wow, you gotta be proud." She said, "Who's gonna interview you this morning?" I said, "Well, it might be Margaret Larson, Katie Couric, Bryant Gumbel. It'll probably be one of them." And then she says, "I understand that 10 million people watch the Today Show every morning." I said, 10 million folks? She said, "Tell me the truth. Are you nervous?" I said, "What, me, nervous? What would make you think that?" She says, "Because you're in the ladies' room." No, no one is more important than anybody else. And like you said, yes, I wrote a book before, my last book, The Wealth Choice. For a 5-year period, I went around this country. And I asked more than 1,000 Black grandmothers, and I could have focused on any demographic, but that was a demographic that was nearest and dearest to me at the time. I asked 1,000 Black grandmothers, I said, if you could write one letter to your children or to the next generation, what would you tell them about life and success? And don't you know, Urban League, I received letters from every type of Black grandmother under the sun. Doctors and lawyers, women with PhDs from Harvard, those who barely got out of elementary school, women whose children and grandchildren are thriving and surviving. To one kind soul, her name is Flora Kelly. She lives in Waterloo, Iowa. She has 7 children. And the day in which she wrote my letter, 5 were incarcerated in prison. So it ran the spectrum. And what is so apropos this morning, and I am honored that you selected me for your conference and for this very, very crucial, important dialogue that we're going to have this afternoon. I received this letter January 4th, 1999 from a kind soul in Hampton, Virginia. And it really sets the tone and tenor. When you pull back all the layers and you stick your toe in the water and you take a deep dive to what is truly necessary, what we must do. And she entitled her letter. She went on to write, "Where there's hope, there's life." And she writes, "At some point in life, you'll be faced with a crisis that seems so overwhelming, it will shake you to the core. A loved one dies, a marriage crumbles, disease strikes, a child goes astray, life savings are squandered. But this I know, Lorain County Urban League, into each life a little rain is going to fall." Well, in June 1992, I was diagnosed with cancer. Following surgery, I faced months of chemotherapy. Each treatment lasted 4 hours. It left me so weak, I needed assistance just to function. I lost my appetite as well as weight. My hair, well, that came out in clumps, but being bald was the least of my worries. I had to learn to inject myself as part of the treatment to keep my white blood cell count up. To be honest, I didn't think I was going to make it. I had nearly given up hope. But my hour in need, the Lord spoke to me as he so often does, and I thought, this is not the end. I mean, what can cancer do? Cancer cannot control my outlook. Cancer cannot steal my faith. Cancer cannot destroy my peace. Cancer cannot erase my memories. It cannot invade my spirit, and it will not shatter my hope. Where there's hope, there's life, and I choose to live. I thank God to be able to wake up each morning and move under my own power. But if I didn't, Lorain County, I'm confident I could still handle it. There's still hope, if not for me, then for someone else. I would instruct my doctors to give my eyes to the boy who cannot see, to give my ears to the little girl who cannot hear, to give my heart to the woman who's known nothing but pain, and to give my kidneys to the child chained to dialysis. Regardless of your circumstances, you have so much to hope for. Come to the edge, he said. They said, we are afraid. No, come to the edge, he said. They came, he pushed them, and they flew. Let others lead small lives, but not you. Let others cry over small hurts, but not you. Let others leave their future in someone else's hands, but not you. Well, I bring you greetings from my school, Clark Atlanta University School of Business, where I've been on the faculty there for far too long. Whoa, going on 25 years, man, whoa. And for those of you who haven't heard about our grand institution, you haven't been to Atlanta, you don't know anything about the AUC, and you don't know anything about historically Black colleges and universities. I tell my students I've never attended an historically Black college or university in my life. My education, both undergrad and graduate, and even you're looking at a man who will be 71 years old in December. Oh yeah. As I was sharing with my boy Achilles, man, I said, Achilles, man, you know, I had both of my knees replaced. I've been a runner for more than 35 years. Had my left knee replaced in 2010, had my right knee replaced in 2015. It was nothing for me to go to school and teach and come home at the end of the day and put in a 7 or 9 miler, half marathons, but just ground these bad boys up. But now I walk. And now I walk. Almost like Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela, you listen to me, 27 years he spent on that rock. And how did he start out his day? What he called his daily walk with God. And I'm not here to talk about religion. I'm not here to talk about spirituality. But there's a higher power, there's a force, and you can call it anything that you want. Who's the most dangerous individual in the world? Man and woman without hope. Who is the most pitiful individual in the world? Man and woman with sight but no vision. So here I am, I'll be 71 years old, and I tell my students I never had a Black teacher in my life. Never had a Black teacher in my life. I was taught by Italian Americans. I was taught by Irish Americans. I was taught by Polish Jewish Americans. I remember my kindergarten teacher, Miss Staff. I remember my 3rd grade teacher, Miss Welch. I remember my 4th grade teacher, Miss Pachoiba. I remember my 5th grade teacher, Miss Castro. Dr. Kimbro, you remember your 6th grade teacher? Yeah, Mr. Ananasio. You remember your 7th grade teacher? Yeah, Mr. Jack Lambert, he's the football coach. You remember your 8th grade teacher, Mr. Mano? How do you remember your 10th grade teacher, Mr. Meyer? All of them were white. Now, why do I remember them? And I want you to do the same thing. Everybody in this room was taught by 50 million teachers over the course of their life, but there's always that 1 or 2 individuals who, when you're asked, do you remember? Yeah. And why do you single them out among everybody else? Because they loved you. Because they believed in you. Because they put an arm around you. Because they said, don't worry about that, you can do it, I have faith in you. And what is our goal in life? It's not how much money you can make. People say to me, you're the only man to write books on wealth, but you don't talk nothing about wealth. Because wealth is not the bottom line. Did you know that? Wealth is not the bottom line. I've written 3 books on money, and you will never find in the 25 years any of my books on my syllabus. My faculty says, man, Kimbro, you can make a killing, man. Put your books on syllabus, tell the kids, go ahead and get your book. No, it ain't about that. Wealth, money is not the bottom line. Love is the bottom line. Did you hear what I said? Look, damn it, I said love is the bottom line. Dr. Kimbro, what in the world are you talking about? I don't care if you're an entrepreneur. If you're an entrepreneur and you love your customers, guess what? You're getting more customers. You work in corporate America and you love your job, you get in the parking space closest to the building. You're a corporate climber and you love your coworkers, girlfriend, you making manager in no time. Love is the bottom line. So I tell them, I said, hey man, I never had a Black teacher, and I never attended an HBCU, undergrad, University of Oklahoma. Boomer! Doctorate Northwestern, one of the toughest things I ever did in my life, getting out of that school. But I've been historically Black my entire life. Historically Black my entire life. So here we are in Lorain, Ohio, and we have this, this journey, and all we got to do, just look for the breadcrumbs in the forest to see what others have done. Why was Nelson Mandela, emulated and held in high esteem? 2 reasons and 2 reasons only. Number 1, he lifted as he climbed. And number 2, he always left people better off than what he found them. There were 3 times Martin Luther King just knew he was going to lose the nonviolent social, commitment. And of all the people that I interviewed, and I interviewed them all, when I got my fancy PhD degree, one of the best pieces of advice I ever was given from one of my committee members. He said, Dennis, don't look at your doctorate as an obligation for your degree. Look at your dissertation as your first book. And so my dissertation was on wealth and poverty among underdeveloped countries. And right after I crossed that barrier and they put that sheepskin in hand, I turned to my wife and I said, Pat, I know my first book. She says, what is it? I said, like I studied, underdeveloped countries. I don't want to study underdeveloped countries. I want to look at African-American men and women. I studied wealth and poverty, scrap the poverty. I only want to study wealth. So I want to study wealth, high achieving, peak performing African men and women. And then I pulled out a sheet of legal paper and I just kept writing names on there. I wrote 50 names, went out, interviewed them, wrote another 50, went out and interviewed them. And when it was all said and done, I quit counting at 150 interviews, but I had so much content for at least 3 of my 5 books. 3 of my 5 books. People ask me all the time, Dr. Kimbro, who impacted you the most? And there were a number of folks, but Andy Young was one of them. And he is one of them. We developed a relationship. Why Andy Young? For the stories that he would just share with me about Dr. King. And he told me there were 3 times Martin Luther King just knew he was going to lose, the nonviolent movement. Number 1, when Medgar Evers was assassinated right there in his driveway. Number 2, when the 4 girls were bombed in 1963 in Birmingham. I interviewed one of those 4 girls' grandmother. And then last but not least, oh my goodness. So there you are. Number 1, Medgar Evers. Number 2, the 4 girls. And number 3, his impending assassination. And each time Martin Luther King, it swelled up in him that we were going to go from nonviolent to violent, he would call his team together. And one time he called his team together in 1963, Martin Luther King traveled more than 300,000 miles to give more than 300 speeches. And he felt that, man, he wasn't making an impact, and his team was with him, and he called this team together. And who was this team? Ralph David Abernathy, Hosea Williams, C.T. Vivian, Joseph Lowry, Andy Young, Jesse Jackson. And they were all seated at the table. And he said to him one time, Andy Young told me the story, Martin said, man, we gotta be crazy if we think that we can change this country. You gotta be out of your mind to think if we can change this country. I got some good news and bad news for us, fellas. If we do change this country, no one seated at this table will live to see age 40. And Martin didn't. He said, that's the bad news. He said, but the good news is, untold generations will benefit from the work that we are doing today. Well, the same thing is true with the Urban League. And thank you, God, thank you, State Farm. My agent, Trey Young. Come on, Dr. Kimbro, what are the odds? Just speaking, Trey Young. Yeah, State Farm is a sponsor and said, yeah, Trey Young. South DeKalb County, go right there, Trey Young, my boy, yep. God bless you, State Farm, for what you are doing. You are making a difference. 4 things in life you want to do. Number 1, you want to make a difference. Number 2, you want to make a difference with somebody else who wants to make a difference. Number 3, you want to make a difference with somebody else who wants to make a difference doing something that makes a difference. But number 4, you want to make a difference doing something that makes a difference doing, with somebody else who wants to make a difference at a time when it makes all the difference in the world. And this is the time. You got a whole bunch of nonsense going out there today. I shared with Achilles and I shared with Sharon and a few others last night. Just Kimbro, how many times you been to Ohio? Man, I've been to Ohio more times than you. Well, my father started the family from Ohio. Little small town in southeastern Ohio. Anybody ever heard of Ballard, Ohio? Right across the Wheeling, West Virginia. There you go, Zanesville, Shady Side. Used to go to the state fair, Youngstown State, blah, blah, blah. Blair, right? Yeah. My father's people. And how did they get to Ohio? Well, my grandfather was a butler, and his wife, my grandmother, she was a maid, and they worked for a wealthy white family in North Carolina. And in his later years, my grandfather moved to Ballard, Ohio. My grandfather died when I was 8 years old. He lived to be 84. Lived to be 84. But the fact of the matter is, he died before the Voting Rights Act, and I don't know if he and my grandmother ever voted in their life. Whoa! Whoa! Where there's hope, there's life. And what is the hope that came out of today? Who would know? My mother was a nanny. How's it like go through your life as a nanny? I tell my hotshot know-it-all NBA students who want to make a killing on Wall Street when they finish, there we are at the AUC, Atlanta University, Clark Atlanta University. I said, when you walk around Atlanta and you go to the affluent sections of Atlanta like Buckhead and some areas of Sandy Springs and Smyrna and Duluth, and you see these women in these white dresses pushing these baby carriages and everything, don't you look down at them. Don't you poo-poo those women. You're looking at mama, you're looking at my mother. My mother had a 7th grade education. And she was so cognizant of the fact that she would read the newspaper and there was word and she didn't understand it. She would circle it, and after she got through reading the article, she would go get a dictionary and look it up. My mother had a 7th grade education, but before she transitioned me with my fancy PhD, my mother would correct my English. So what did you learn? What is true nobility? What is true nobility? True nobility is we learn from each other. I tell my students, hopefully, you'll learn as much from me as I learn from you. And I learn from you every day. That is true nobility. This journey that we call life supposedly begins in birth. And what is birth? Birth is knowledge. Birth is consciousness. Nothing physical about birth. How come I was born in 1950 and not born the same year my parents, 1914? Well, the world wasn't ready for me then. You doubt me? The world wasn't ready for me then. What did my dad say to me? He said, I missed my boat, but you'll catch yours. Only 2 times in life I ever saw my father cry. Number 1, when my grandfather died. Told you I was 8 years old. And number 2, August 28th, 1963, March on Washington. It was on every station back then. If you don't know, there was only 4 stations. And I said, Pop, what's wrong? He said, boy, telling you, you got to be ready, boy. Times like this won't be tough on the Negro. You got to be ready, boy. You understand me, son? I said, yes, sir. And you fast forward the videotape, and there we are, what, 1975, 76, 77, I forgot the date. But that was the first time I saw my father-in-law cry. I said, Pop, what is wrong? He said, man, I never thought I'd live long enough to see a black man break that record. Who was it? Hank Aaron. And one of the folks I interviewed was his wife, Billy Aaron. And I said, Miss Aaron, what was it like when Henry was, going up to break Babe Ruth's record? She said, I was so glad it was over with. Don't you know, between 4 and 5 months, every week they had to stay in a different hotel because of the death threats. Every week. Couldn't go to the house. Couldn't eat in the house. Every week. So, child, what in the world keeps you standing? Well, let's talk about wealth. All right, so here I am. And I don't care whether it's Think and Grow Rich or Black Choice, I found 4 common chords in all the individuals in the book. Number 1, they dreamed big dreams. They had a dream, a passion, something they desperately wanted to accomplish in life. Point number 2, they were inner directed versus outer directed. In other words, they weren't so quick to believe well-meaning friends and family members who said, you can't do this, you can't do that. They walked to a beat of a different drummer. Robert Frost was so apropos when he wrote that poem, 2 roads diverged in the wood, and I took the one less traveled by. You are unique. You cannot succeed being like everybody else. Point number 3, they dedicate themselves to lifelong learning. You don't go to school one period of your life. You're in school every day of your life. Your life will be transformed by 2 factors and 2 factors only. Number 1, the books you read, and number 2, the people you associate with. And then last but not least, these men and women flat out refuse to fail. I'm not saying they didn't fail. Many of them actually failed their way to success. Fast forward the videotape to book number 3, What Makes the Great Great? What did I find out? What makes the great great? What are the 3 factors of greatness? 3 factors of greatness. Number 1, what do these individuals have in common? I interviewed scores of men and women in there. One of the best interviews I had in there, I remember Maynard Jackson when he was mayor of Atlanta. And I approached his team. I said, Mr. Mayor, I got an interview for my book. And what did he say to me? He said, don't call me Mr. Mayor, call me Maynard. I said, well, Mr. Mayor, I gotta respect. You know, I'd like to interview for my book, What Makes the Great Great. He said, Dennis, don't interview me. Shadow me through City Hall for 1 week. Imagine shadowing Maynard Jackson for 1 week through City Hall. And what was Maynard Jackson's claim to fame? That he was the first Black male, major metropolitan, southern city. Wrong, no. Maynard Jackson's claim to fame, he was the first individual to come up with an idea that an airport should be a shopping mall where people can catch a flight. If you would have seen what is now Hartsfield Jackson before Maynard got it, you had the #1 brand in the world in Coca-Cola. And you couldn't even get a Coke and sandwich out at that airport. He told the Buckhead Businessmen Association, we're going to rebuild this airport. And we're going to use minority representation. And we're going to make this the model of all airports across the globe. And if you don't want to join with me, I'm going to lay down on that runway. And what did he do? Created 15 millionaires in the process. So here I am, dead broke, and I was dead broke. When I was, with the research for all those 3 books, I had 1 suit to my name. I had so many holes in the suits and the pants leg of that suit, I don't know which hole to put my leg through. So there I am, and I see Maynard Jackson in City Hall. And he says to me, he says, Dennis, when are you going to put a pocket handkerchief in that suit? I said, what do you mean, Mr. Mayor? He said, when are you going to put a pocket handkerchief in the suit? I said, I don't have one. I said, why is that important? He says, because visibility is just as important as ability. You look the part, act the part, walk the part, talk the part, think the part. Guess what? You get the part. You get the part. So what did I find out and what makes the great great? Number 1, deliberate practice. Deliberate practice. These individuals worked on their weaknesses just as much as they worked on their strengths. Number 2, quality relationships. Get around the best. Raise your standards. Raise your standards. You are wherever you are in life by the standards that you have set, both financially, both socially, both economically, both in terms of relationships. And then last but not least, total craft mastery. Work on your craft. I show my students a slide because I interviewed one of them. And there's a slide of Dr. Dre, and there's a slide of Jay-Z, and there's a slide of Antonio Reed. And I asked my students, what are these 3, moguls have in common? And they come back and they reply, oh man, Dr. Mother Bank like came through, music legends, music moguls. But I said, no, what do they really have in common? Oh no, I mean, man, what are you driving at? I said, these individuals took an executive management class for 8 weeks at Harvard Business School. And there I am with Antonio Reed. And I asked him, I said, Antonio, why in the world would you take 2.5 months, almost 3 months to take that executive management class at Harvard. You and Babyface have made more money hand over fist. If you and Babyface lived 2 lifetimes, you couldn't spend half of the money that you've earned. Why would you do that? He said 2 reasons. He says, number 1, so many folks want to get into the music business, and it is a business. And number 2, the moment you cease to grow and develop, well, that's the moment you begin to die. And then last but not least, the wealth choice. And I've been blessed. 7 years studying Black millionaires. For 7 years, I surveyed, I interviewed, and I held focus groups on Black millionaires. At the time that the book was released in 2013, at the time that I conducted the research, there were only 35,000 Black millionaires in the United States. I get a lot of pushback from that, but that's Federal Reserve data. At the time, they told me, said, you know, I told them what I wanted to do. Charles Stanley, who wrote The Millionaire Next Door, he's in year 2 of his research. And the Census Bureau not only told Charles Stanley and The Millionaire Next Door how many millionaires in the United States, they gave them zip codes and addresses. So Charles Stanley, he taught at Georgia State, less than 4 miles from my office to Clark, Atlanta. So he developed a 247 question survey, attached a dollar bill stapled to it, and he and his children stuffed mailboxes in those zip codes. Well, here I am in the 2nd year of the wealth choice, just millionaires. And I went down to the Census Bureau. I didn't call the Census Bureau. I went down there, talked to 2 social science researchers, and they said, Doc, can't help it, we don't know. I said, who has the data? And I said, probably only folks who might have the data, IRS and the Federal Reserve. And let me show you how the Lord works. Less than 2 months from that interview with, with the Census Bureau, guess who called me up and wanted a presentation? Federal Reserve. I said, I'll be right there. Doc, what are you working on now? Man, I'm dumbfounded. I'm working on this book on Black millionaires. No one has the data. Oh, man, we got that data. Well, so how many Black millionaires out there? I said, well, you got 2 choices. You have 112,000 African-American households with a net worth of $1 million or more, or you have 35,000 single. I said, I want the single. So I had 6 focus groups around the country. If you weren't, if you weren't African-American, you weren't 7 figures, you didn't get in the focus group. I had 3 in Atlanta. I had 1 in Washington, D.C. The focus group I had in Washington, D.C., more than 100 Black millionaires were in that room. Bob Johnson, the founder of BET, was in the room. Carla Harris, most powerful Black woman on Wall Street, was in the room. The Roberts brothers, Michael and Stephen Roberts, were in that room. I had a focus group in Omaha, Nebraska, and then I had a small boutique focus group, nothing but Black females out in Las Vegas. And then last but not least, I had 60 face-to-face interviews. Now, I made the distinction up front. I didn't want any athletes or any entertainers because they're overrepresented in that area, but I had athletes and entertainers. Oh man, those people put me in the book, man. But I said, nah. Why? Well, I'm into wealth, not income. It's not what you earn, it's what you keep. Now, obviously, there were some folks I had to interview. So I had to interview Steve Harvey. I had to interview Damon John. I had to interview Tyler Perry. And what did I find out in all this data as we shut this puppy down and move on? I found 7 best practices, 7 laws of success. We'll talk about it during the panel discussion, but number 1, top of the list, it is intentional. I could care less your race. I could care less your color, your gender. Look, damn it, you gotta be intentional about wealth. There's no pie in the sky. You are blessed to live in a capitalistic economy. And capitalism is not a dirty word. Capitalism means everything is for sale. That's all it means. You take the word capitalism, write it on a piece of paper, C-A-P-I-T-A-L-I-S-M. Take the Latin derivative of the word capitalism, C-A-P-U-T. Kaput. What does it mean in Latin? It means head. What's the one thing you must use in order to survive in this free and open society? You gotta use your head. Obviously, one of the greatest inventions ever come was what? 1948, when the television was invented. Big old box, wooden box, dials and controls. Don't only get 4 stations. Why? because the vision of TV in 48 wasn't clear. Now, here we are in 2021. Oh, the vision is real clear. So what in the world are you talking about, Dennis Kimbro? When the vision is clear, nothing matters. Nothing matters. Nothing matters. The body's temporary, but the soul is everlasting. Nothing matters. Nothing matters. Oh my goodness. So where are we moving with nothing matters? People ask me all the time, how in the world did you steal Napoleon Hill's book and get your name up? First of all, my brother, I didn't steal his book. I was asked by W. Clement Stone to finish it. Remember I said nothing matters? You listen to me. You listen to me, Lorain County Urban League. Nothing matters. I didn't steal his book. Success Magazine heard of what I was doing, going around the country and interviewing scores of individuals, and they came to me and said, man, Dr. Kimbro, man, you need to write some articles for us. I said, well, here's my manuscript. He said, no, we like your writing style, right? So I wrote 3 articles. One of those articles made it to the desk of W. Clement Stone. In 1970, if there had been a Forbes 400 richest, Stone would have been in the top 10. I didn't know that. I knew of him. I didn't have his phone number, but he called me. If you ever want to reach somebody and you really want to reach them bad, you'll find a way to get a hold of them. So he called me up. I just got back from New York. I interviewed Earl Grace, publisher of Black Enterprise magazine. My wife said, your phone been blown up. You better check your answering machine. Young man, we heard about you. When can you come to Chicago? We'd like to meet you. Less than 2 weeks later, me and my wife fly to Chicago. Why did it take us 2 weeks? Again, I told you I was dead broke. I had to find the travel. I had to find lodging, rent a car. So she waited in the car for 2 hours there on November 4th, 1986, while I was in the meeting. Remember I said nothing else matters? And here you have a white Southern gentleman by the name of Napoleon Hill, America's most prolific self-help writer. He wrote 16 books in his lifetime. You can go in the bookstore and buy 8 of those 16. But the last book he was working on at the time of his death was a Black version of his all-time classic, Think and Grow Rich. He got 100 pages into the manuscript, died of a stroke. He was 87 years old. Remember I said nothing else matters? So Stone says to me, Mr. Stone says to me, then Kimbro, we want you to finish and update a book. And I said, what book? Reach across his credenza, pulled out the last 100 pages of Napoleon Hill, dropped it on my lap. He said, that book? I said, Mr. Stone, I'm honored, but I can't do it. And he said, why not? I said, I'm working on a book of my own. He said, if you have any sense, you need to push that book aside and finish this. And then number 2, I asked him, I said, okay, I'll go ahead and do it if you pay me. You should have seen he blew up when I said that. Pay you? Andrew Carnegie didn't give him, Napoleon Hill a dime. He just paid him for any out expenses or whatever, and we're not going to give you a dime. But if you ever want to find the answers to 2 questions, why one person succeeds while another fails, while one individual is rich and wealthy while another is impoverished, it is in this laboratory that you must find it. So I took on the task. And as I wrap it up, and I mean really wrap it up this time, they sent me all of his writings. They sent me his audio tapes. The executive director of the Napoleon Hill Foundation at the time was a gentleman by the name of Mike Ritt. He was Napoleon Hill's personal concierge, traveled with him, set up the flight, the hotel, and the like, and audio taped his presentation. So he sent me an audio tape, Napoleon Hill, Chicago, Illinois, 1959. Wrap your heads around this. He said, Dennis, we want you to listen to this. I said, okay. So I go ahead and throw the cassette in there. Napoleon Hill is giving a 2-hour presentation to a business group, 1959. After the 2-hour presentation, Hill opens it up for Q&A. Remember what I said? A white Southerner. And a woman asked a question during the question and answer. It says, Dr. Hill, are these principles that you espouse, will they work for anybody? And Hill replies, what do you mean anybody? And she says, without any regard to race, creed, or color. And what was Napoleon Hill's response? Chicago, Illinois, 1959. He said, Madam, let's get one thing straight before we go any further. There's no such thing as race. Somebody said it couldn't be done, but he with a chuckle replied that maybe it couldn't, but he would be one who wouldn't say till he tried. So he buckled right in with a trace of a grin on his face if he worried he hit it. He started to sing as he tackled the thing that couldn't be done, and he did it. Somebody scoffed, oh, you'll never do that. At least no one ever has done it. But he took off his coat and he took off his hat. And the first thing we know, he begun it. With a lift of his chin and a bit of a grin without any doubting or quit it. He started to sing as he tackled the thing that couldn't be done, and he did it. There are thousands to tell you cannot be done. There are thousands to prophesy failure. There are thousands to point out to you one by one the dangers that wait till assail you. But with a lift of your chin and a bit of your grin, you just take off your coat and go to it. You starting to sing as you tackle the thing. Oh my God. There I am with Bishop T.D. Jakes, and I'm in his book line study, getting ready to interview the bishop, the man himself. And his attendant says, Dr. Kimbro, have a seat. The bishop will be with you in a second. And I'm in his book line study, and I'm looking at every book on God's green earth that you would ever want to read, study, or examine in your life. And what do you know about Bishop T.D. Jakes? Number one, they told the man he would never make it in the ministry. Number two, he never finished high school. I mean, he's like Tyler Perry. He's like Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King didn't finish high school, skipped the 9th grade, skipped the 11th grade, and, started Morehouse at age 11. You do the calculus. They ran him out of Charleston, West Virginia with only 8 members, but you look at the man now. 900,000 square foot mega facility, annual budget of what, 45 million? I don't know how, God knows how many members, and bam, all of a sudden Jake steps in. And I said to him, I said, Bishop, I'm a big boy. No problem, I can get back on that flight and go back to Atlanta, but I'm not leaving it until you tell me the keys to wealth, to leadership and achievement. And he looked at me, he said, no problem. But before I do, I said to him, your critics said you weren't going to make it in the ministry. He said, well, my critics weren't altogether wrong. If you listen close enough, you can hear that I have a lisp, but I don't care if I had to spit. I don't care if I had to stutter. I don't care if I had to stammer. I had something to say, and I was going to say it. I said, well, here's the mic. Say all you want. He said, give a man a fish, teach him, feed him for a day. Teach him how to fish, feed him for a lifetime. But show him or her how they can buy the pond. And no one in their family will ever know struggle. Urban League, State Farm, I guess this afternoon, we're gonna show folks how to buy the pond. I'm out of here.
How do you feel right now? Amazing, right? Oh, can we just take a moment, just take a deep breath together, just one. Oh, with that breath, you know what I know? I know that we still have opportunity. We still have opportunity to use our heads, to dream big dreams, to get a clear vision, right? To recognize that we are unique, and because we are, we don't have to live small lives. We don't have to. We can lift as we climb. We can leave people better than we have found them. We can believe that we can, right? We can be a lifelong learner. I can keep going, but I'm not. What I do know is that it's a recording, and if it's a recording, it's probably an opportunity for a review. What I also know is that he has many books. Feel free to read them. All right, sugars. So thank you so much for that. That was amazing. I thoroughly appreciate it. Thank you. Today, we are hoping you combine financial knowledge with attitudes, skills, and behaviors, which are essential to making a financial decision based on personal circumstances. It helps improve your financial well-being. Undoubtedly, being financially literate will assist in influential financial decisions. The ability to make financial decisions and improve financial well-being are two important aspects of the definition of financial literacy. We are excited to have one of the Lorain County Urban League's lifetime members serve as today's moderator. Mark A. Ballard II is a Lorain High School and Lorain County Community College graduate through the Early College program. Since then, Mark has earned his bachelor's degree in economics from Morehouse College and a JD from Mississippi College School of Law. Mark brings years of community engagement experience and currently serves as mayor's liaison in the city of Elyria. Please join me in welcome Mark Ballard.
$11:54, so still good morning. Oh, y'all sleep after lunch. That was a good meal, huh? Good morning. Again, my name is Mark Ballard II. I'm very happy to be here and excited to be here, but I have to just say one thing. Dr. Kimbro, 71 years old. Can I just buy an ounce of that energy? Ounce, I take naps after work and I'm 27. So I'm just excited to be here, excited to see all these wonderful faces. So now I would just like to bring up our panelists, and once they get up here, I'm gonna let them have a chance to introduce themselves, and then we're gonna get started on the panel. So come on up. So I will call, I forgot my program, I'm so sorry. I will call everyone up. First, we have Marlon Hall, founder, president of Association for Wholesaling Diversity. We have Ms. Pat Ramsey, assistant vice president, community and economic development at Fifth Third Bank. We have Philip J. Robinson, financial advisor at Edward Jones. We have Mr. Vassie Scott, financial advisor at the Scott Group. We have Victor Terry, VP Public Affairs and Chief Diversity Officer at State Farm. And I believe we have Ms. Monique Winston, President of the Cleveland Real Estate Association. So as we can give them a hand as they come. Okay. And then also we have Dr. Kimbro. So we're going to give, I know I read off kind of some short listings of who you are, but give a 30-second elevator pitch of who you guys are. So we'll start with you, Mr. Hall. Yes, sir.
Thank you. My name is Marlon with the Association for Wholesaling Diversity. AWD is a nonprofit organization representing what are called wholesalers, financial services intermediary distribution. If you purchase as a retail customer some sort of financial services product, that individual financial planner chose that product as a result of a wholesaler who convinced him or her to choose their company's product versus someone else's. This industry is less than 1% of 1% Black, and it is quite lucrative. And so I founded the nonprofit with the other Black wholesalers that I knew at the time, 6 years ago, with the express purpose of bringing more Black people into this specific niche. Now we've grown. We have a number of Fortune 100 financial services company sponsors and donors. And we do programming with HBCUs and Black student organizations at universities across the country. But we also seek to uplift Black people already in the industry, because as you move up the vertical into management and the C-suite, our representation decreases exponentially. So that's what AWD does, and that's why I'm here today to be involved in this conversation. Thank you for having me.
Hello, my name is Pat Ramsey. I'm with Fifth Third Bank. And first of all, I'm honored to be here with my Urban League family. Greetings from our Urban League of Greater Cleveland, where Marsha Maccabee is the president CEO, and I serve there as treasurer. And I am also one of the past members of the board there. I'm also delighted to share that we donated $1 million to the National Urban League. And one of my bankers, one of my managers, Kala Gibson, now serves on that board. And the good thing is that dollars are coming right back into our corporate footprint. It's used for upskilling, training, workforce development. So we're talking about economic mobility that we're supporting. And eight urban leagues are basically going to be a big part of the diversity and inclusion process from that standpoint. But I also wanted to mention this, so you could forget about 30-second start, but I just want to mention this real quick. D&I for Fifth Third, we're talking about our employees, our customers, and our communities, and we're talking about affordable housing, business development, access to capital, and supplier diversity. And we're really big in supporting each of those pillars. We're committed to about $40 million in money commitment to our communities, to support community organizations that address economic mobility, wealth creation for majority African-American individuals, businesses, and communities, financial and inclusion education. So we're talking about higher education, especially our HBCUs, homebuyers education, minority business technical assistance. We're talking about social justice and advocacy, so racial equity and social justice organizations like what we're doing here, and workforce development and re-entry programs as well. Strategic neighborhood investments, where we're looking at small business workforce and development programs, and also access to capital. Again, working with minority development institutions, Black banks, banks of color, as well as community development financial institutions. So there's a lot of stuff that we're doing, and I just want to thank the Urban League for having me here today. And I just want to shout out to some of my past friends from US Bank. You know, I had to do that. I'm sorry, I know you don't think that Fifth Third is supposed to be shout out at US Bank, but I work with them two ladies over there and I love them. So I'm going to just shout out to the folks that I used to work with, because we were a family, and we're all about family when we're doing this economic development together. So there you go. Okay,
So we're gonna do 30 seconds plus 2 minutes. I said we're gonna do 30 seconds plus 2 minutes.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Philip Robinson with Edward Jones. I also bring you greetings from the Akron Urban League Guild, where I serve as parliamentarian. So financial advisor with Edward Jones, like I said, one of the main driving forces for me getting into this industry is really empowering, educating, and just being a community leader, helping us to pursue wellness financially. So my office is in Wadsworth, Ohio, but I do serve anyone and everyone wherever you are. And it is certainly a delight and a privilege to be sitting up here with all of these panelists here. So thank you so much.
Good afternoon. I've already had a chance to say hello and introduce myself. I'll just only add that State Farm has been on our diversity and inclusion journey for about 20 years in a legitimate way, but I am proud to be our first named Chief Diversity Officer. And I'll just say on behalf of our 57,000 employees and our 19,000 independent contractor agents, just proud here to represent our brand. And next summer, State Farm will turn 100 years old, and we have been the market leader for 8 decades. So thanks, good to be with you.
Afternoon, everyone. I'm sure most of you already know me. My name is Vassie Scott. I'm a financial advisor with Scott Group. Prior to that, I spent 36 years with Prudential. Matter of fact, when I started back in 1978, we used to go door to door collecting premiums. Remember when the old insurance man used to do that? I then retired and I kept my top 50 clients. My office is in Lorraine now, and our goal throughout that journey was very simple. We wanted to help them to protect, accumulate, and direct their wealth. The protection piece came through life insurance, disability insurance, long-term care. The accumulation piece was putting money aside for retirement down the road, whether it was in a traditional 401k, a Roth IRA. And then the direction at the end was making sure that the government allowed you to keep what you had earned all those years. That pond Dr. Kimbro was talking about, if you did it with a Roth IRA as opposed to a traditional IRA, you paid no tax on all the profits the pond gave you. So those are some of the things that we did throughout the years. Also, I spent a lot of time investing in real estate in the area. I've got about 50 rental properties. I'm past president of Lake Erie Landlords Association. So we took that opportunity to self-direct that IRA one more time, purchase rental property, flip rental property, keep the government out of your pocket, and enjoy yourself as time goes on. These young men down here, especially this brother from Edward Jones, he works hard. I like to think that I paid my dues, and now my business comes majority from referrals.
Thank you to our panel. Just for the audience, I'm gonna throw out just some quick numbers just so we can kind of have a same starting place of what racial disparity and how and why financial literacy and things of that nature are so important. So nationally speaking, Black poverty is almost double. That's about 22% for Blacks, 9% compared to whites. So just from that statistic alone, it shows how important that the closing of the wealth gap and the financial gap. On the flip side, the average wealth for white families is 8 times higher than in the Black community. So 8 times higher for white people compared to Blacks. So in asking these questions, some of them are going to be directed specifically, but please feel free if there's something that you'd like to add, please feel free to add. So Mr. Scott, we're going to start with you. What are some ways African Americans can improve their financial literacy? Are there any specific resources that you would recommend?
Well, I think Solomon said it a long time ago, people without a vision simply perish. And when it comes to our finances, we are so reactive as opposed to being proactive. We spend our money, then we figure out how we're gonna make it the rest of the way. And if we're more proactive, I found out those that have versus those that don't, those that have pay themselves first. And then they live off of the balance.
Oh, without a doubt.
Okay.
Yeah.
What sometimes we tend to do is our goal is based simply on survival. We're gonna find a way as opposed to prosperity. So if I were to tell anybody anything, we've always written down a budget. Very seldom do we go back the month afterwards and found out where that money actually went and track it and then make changes to our life. We talk about financial wellness. That's based on lifestyle. It's just that simple.
Thank you, Mr. Scott.
I just want to add a couple of concrete things, specific. If this affects you or you know someone this affects, ask them to do 2 things. Go to the local library and find Dr. Kimbro's book, Think and Grow Rich, okay, for Black people. And then go to the yellow pages or the Google and look for your local State Farm agent, call the office and say, I would like to learn some basics about financial literacy and financial wellness. Are you willing to share it with me? They'll say yes or they'll say no. Those are 2 things that people can do today that would be impactful to them ultimately.
Now, kind of in that same vein, Dr. Kimbro, what are some financial barriers that you observed in our community, and kind of what are some tips to help build wealth? So we talk about all the disparities in the gap. What are kind of some of the financial barriers that you kind of see?
Well, there's a number of, directions that you can go. And let me just say, I mean, I know I can give you all the data that you would ever want to know in terms of where Black America is in terms of its wealth. 27% of African Americans spend more on a daily basis than what they bring in. More than 30% have no savings plan. More than 40% and they even created this name for Black America, non-banked or unbanked for their financial transactions. The number one bank of Black America is Walmart. Number two is the post office in terms of the financial transactions. So there's a lot of work to be done. And I'm a Johnny come lately. I didn't invent this whole thing about publishing and financial literacy. As I was sharing with the table during lunch, I mean, Black America's most prolific scholar, W.B. Du Bois, said this in 1897. W.B. Du Bois and Booker T. Washington both wrote books, and they used the exact title, Blacks in Business. And Du Bois says, and you can go ahead and get a copy of it. It's a long book, more than 800 pages, 1897. He said, to be a poor man is hard, but to be a poor race in a land full of dollars is the very bottom of hardship. But here is the way out. The Bible is a very old book, but it's still ahead of its time. There are more than 31,000 verses in the Bible. And of those 31,000 verses in the Bible, more than 2,500 deal with you and your finances. Number one, get a budget, know what's coming in and know what's going out. If you don't care about the money in your pocket, what do you care about anything else? Number two, avoid debt. Now, I hope that the Urban League gives everybody the data, because I sent a couple of slides onto the Urban League, and this is the data of the more than 1,000 Black millionaires that I surveyed. And he hit the proverbial nail on the head. Black millionaires save 15 to 20% of every dollar that comes in. 15 to 20% goes into savings. The average millionaire in the United States has 3 real estate properties on the side. The average billionaire, and I interviewed 3 of the 9 Black billionaires. I interviewed Kathy Hughes, spent 2 days with her, Radio One. I interviewed Dave Stewart in Missouri, Worldwide Telecom, and I interviewed Bob Johnson twice. All right, the average billionaire has 9 properties on the side. Number 3, okay, so number 1, get your budget together. Number 2, avoid debt. Number 3, quality relationships. Develop quality relationships. Survey after survey has proved your annual income will be within $10,000 of your 10 closest friends. What did Ron Brown tell me before he died in that plane crash with the Clinton administration? I went up to the Commerce Department and interviewed him. He said, if you hang around 9 broke people, sooner or later, you're gonna be number 10. I said, yes, Mr. Secretary. Number 4, savings. Develop a savings plan. It's not what you earn, it's what you keep. And you look at the stock market. When I interviewed John Rogers of Aerial Management, man, slow and steady wins the race. This is a long game. Now, I know there's highs and lows, there's ups and downs. Anybody's ever taken an economics class, you were taught elasticity and velocity. What is velocity? How fast money affects you. I tell my students all the time, if I gave you $100 bill, oh my God, $100 bill, man, I can do this, blah, blah, blah. You would know that you have it. But 20 years from now, I would want you to think if I gave you a $100 bill, you wouldn't even know what's on your possession. That's velocity. What do we want? We want slow velocity. We want elasticity, highs and lows. So you look at the stock market, 12 to 14% in the last 25 years. The fact of the matter is you couldn't save that fast. All right. And then last but not least, come up with a plan for giving. And why is giving and philanthropy so important? Because that places you in the rhythm of life. the rhythm of life. Quick story, I was on the way to school and everybody knows on that campus, two things they know. Number one, they know my classroom. Why do they know my classroom? Because I got this from Jim Tressel when he brought me in to speak to the Ohio State Buckeyes. I got a sign on my door that reads, if you don't want to lead, under no circumstances, walk through this door. And then number two, if they see me on campus and I'm booted and suited like I am today. Oh, Dr. Kimbro got called? Yeah. So there I am, and it was raining cats and dogs. It was coming down, boys and girls. And there was a black man. It didn't look like he wasn't a day younger than 70 years old. He was indigent, probably living in the street. And he had a push cart with two huge black trash bags, nothing but 10 aluminum cans in there. And the wind was howling, the rain was coming down, and he took one of those black trash cans and used it as a parker, cut a hole in it, put on it. And he was just struggling up a hill to push this, blah, blah, blah. And the wind blew his cart over and blew him over. And here he was in the gutter with the water just coming down. And there's a four-way stop sign, and you wouldn't believe the cars that just walked by, saw him in the gutter and just went on. And I said to myself after the fourth or fifth car, man, obviously somebody getting wet today. And I just went out there and helped him, and I got soaked and put it, blah, 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 and I'm trying to clean myself. And I reached in there, and whatever change in dollars I had, I gave it to him. Now, why do I share that story? Because I want to go to heaven? No, it ain't about going to heaven. That is called the rhythm of life. Who brought those circumstances to bear? You didn't conjure it up in your mind. Maybe it was your hour to place your fingerprints on life and prove you were here.
Thank you for that.
If you don't mind, I want to, Dr. Kimbro, if you would allow me to add one more to your list.
Man, this ain't the Kimbro show. We got
Okay.
Jump in.
Own life insurance. Now, some of you may be thinking, well, what does that have to do? The only way for that to work is I don't have to be here. Well, all the things that Dr. Kimbro just mentioned, but for what purpose would you be doing all of that? But for what purpose? Hopefully it's not just for yourself. Hopefully you have some family, loved ones. You want to create a legacy, or maybe it's a part of your giving plan. Maybe you want to earn wealth so you can give it all away. Great, but own life insurance. How many here by show of hands have had someone pass away close to you in the last 3 or 4 years? And how many of you know for yourself the financial drama that erupts when a loved one passes away?
Yes.
Amen. You could go to GoFundMe and search funeral. You will find more results than any other key term you search. Own life insurance. It is a powerful way to create wealth for the next generation. And it is not at all about you. It's about the people that you say you love, that you claim you love. It's a very important component in addition to all the things that have already been
Well,
mentioned.
Mr. Chair, we can just stick to that point kind of right now. What would kind of be your suggestion in what's the best life, if someone has never understood the concept of life insurance, like you said, I know a lot of people who have GoFundMes, let's raise this money for the service and things of that nature, but they don't know the first step of what to do. Should they get term? Should they get all the different types? Can you just talk about that a little bit, please?
Well, do we agree that we're all going to leave this earth one day?
100%.
Okay, so I think this is very important. The best life insurance is the one in force when you leave this earth. That's the best one. Now, there's all sorts of reasons why you would buy term, and there's all sorts of reasons why you would buy permanent, and they are valid. But the most important one, the most important kind of life insurance is the one that you have in force on the day that you leave this earth. So rather than get distracted by the arguments of term and invested difference or permanent, and again, they both have their advantages. That's why they're there, and you choose them for different reasons. The most important thing, though, is you talk to a trusted professional
right? Someone who has credibility, someone who is genuine, someone who is sincere, who can sit down and listen to you, understand what's important to you, what are the obligations that you're trying to solve for that you might leave behind for those that you care about, take care of your final expenses, and what would you want to have happen if you're not here? So we're all on this earth and living this life trying to accomplish something that's bigger than ourselves. And every day, hopefully, we are waking up trying to get a step closer to that goal. The question you have to ask yourself is, if I'm not here, would I still want those things to happen, whatever they are? And then whatever it takes to make those things happen, if you are not here, that's how much life insurance you need. So do I want my mortgage paid off? Do I want cars paid? Do I want credit cards paid? Do I want my kids or my grandkids to go to school? Do I want to give to my church? Do I want to give to the Lorain County Urban League? Whatever it is that you want to have happen, if you are not here, that are the same things that you are working towards today, that's how much you need. And then you can talk to that trusted individual and they can tell you about the pros and cons of term and permanent. And I'm not here to get into that. That's an individual decision. That's not there's no universal answer, except the best one to have is the one that's enforced the day that you pass away.
Ms. Robinson.
I'll just add a little bit to all that. This is great. One of the things that Dr. Kimbro said in his conversation earlier was you have to be intentional, you know? And the truth of the matter is, right now we live in the age of information. You can find anything. Never in a history of humankind has there been this much information at your literal fingertips than it is now. Being intentional means instead of Googling what the most famous rapper right now is doing, or whatever the case may be, Google, search, ask for the information. It's there, it's available, it's right there. And obviously we have trusted individuals who are experts in this field, whatever field it is. One of the reasons why I got into financial advising is because we are severely underrepresented in this area. So one of the questions that I'm asked constantly is, does anyone know about this stuff that looks like me? And the truth of the matter is there aren't enough of us, but we can find them. We can find anything in the age of information that we're in. So that's all I have to say.
Just that. Ms. Ramsey.
Okay. All right, so I just want to follow up and just really add to what has been said. And information is really important, and even your banks have that as well. But I also want to sort of harp on the fact that there are different phases in life that all of us go through. And sometimes when we're very young, we're not ready and we're playing around with our money and we don't know what we're doing. And then when we're at the other spectrum of life, we're wondering at age 65 or whatever, what did we do with our money and what we were supposed to be doing and how we get there and all of that. So in looking at the various stages, and I'm telling you, I've been a banker for a long time, okay, a long time. As a matter of fact, I was telling people at my table that my business card is only good until October 29th because that's when I retire. So yeah, so I just want you to know, okay? But let me just say this, I have 2 millennium daughters that one lives in Atlanta and one lives in New York City. And as a banker, I have tried to teach them and give them financial information. And did they listen to me? I can tell you at the time when I was trying to teach them when they were in high school, because it's important to really instill in our young people what they need to do in order to get through. So my oldest daughter, when she was at Kent State University, all of a sudden she was taking a banking class. And it was like, she was calling me up and say, do you know what APR stands for? Do you know what I said? I tried to tell you. I tried to tell you. And then my daughter in New York City, well, heck, everything is so expensive there. Girlfriend's on a budget. So I just wanted, so I'm gonna start at the bottom of my list because Mr. Kimbro already raised up like about 3 or 4 points on my list already, but that's good because I'm gonna reinforce them. So number one, you gotta really be open and communicate with your spouses or with your partners about what a budget is all about and what you are doing with your money. Now, I'm gonna tell you, it's painful for me to sometimes sit down with my husband and talk about money. Excuse me, it's sometimes painful because it's like, I wanna spend where I wanna spend. However, you gotta work it together. You got to make sure that you know what's going on. And let me tell you something, when I was working, I made some mistakes. I didn't make mistakes. Well, yes, I did make some mistakes, but I signed up for different things like 401ks and all these other programs, legacy, whatever, that makes a big difference over time that you are really saving for. So we're encouraging our kids, sign up for them 401ks when you're like 20 years old trying to get a job, okay? Sign up for them because it really makes a difference and they build up when you get to be 65, like, well, I'm not 65, I'm older than 65. But when you're older, it makes a big difference. So Dr. Kimbro already said, create a budget. So, you know, I have these 10 steps to financial empowerment, which I have copies of that I'll leave, but everything that he said is on here. Create a budget, set your goal to pay off debt. Now I'm a banker, but I'm telling you, pay off your debt. Plan in advance for big expenses. Save, save, save. Take advantage of those 401ks. Limit your use of credit vehicles like high credit cards and all that kind of stuff. I know I'm not supposed to say that because I'm supposed to sell credit cards, but we want you to understand your credit card use, your credit history, and all of that, and what it means. And then keep an eye on your credit score. Protect your money and identity. And then again, I said, it's painful, but work with your spouse because sometimes he got the better ideas. You know, my spouse is pretty cool, so I'm working with him. It's important. You know, it's important. But I just wanted to sort of get those points out because we all like to talk.
I'll go, Mr. Scott.
30 seconds. Time me.
Got it.
Help. No. I'm helping him out. Mr. Ballard. When you have a health issue, you go to a professional. You don't come to a conference, listen to people talk, not take notes, and then go back and think, oh, this is how I'll be healthy. When you have a legal issue, you go to a professional. You don't come to a conference, listen to people talk, nod your head sagely, don't take notes, and then go home and say, I'll get out of jail easily. My tip, because you asked about, you know, which life insurance should I buy? This type of question permeates. There are financial services professionals. We have several on the panel. I'm one, but I don't work with retail consumers. I work with gentlemen like them, but they're here on the panel. And we have a vast array of State Farm financial professionals in the audience. My suggestion is find a professional to help you to ask that question, because as as the Chief Diversity Officer stated, it's personal. Right? If you go to Google, it's great. I agree, but find a professional. One of these, actually, her too, until October.
Mr. Scott.
We were talking earlier about the difference between people that have money versus those that don't, and the principle of save first versus those that don't save at all. The other thing that stands out the most is those that have economic wealth understand and know the tax laws inside and out, or they have a relationship with someone that knows those tax laws. All right. How many in here have 401ks, IRAs? Raise your hand, please. How many have an opportunity to have those accounts in a Roth? How many are actually investing in the Roth? I get excited talking about it. And the reason I asked is go back and understand, normally a traditional IRA, you deduct it from your income now, you pay tax on it later, correct? One of the biggest lies of all time was when you retire, you're going to be in a lower tax bracket than when you're working. Because if you do everything that you're supposed to be doing, those taxes are going to go up. All right? So there's a lot of us sitting on a ton of money in IRAs, more than we've ever had in our entire life. And the reason we are is because that's the one place that grabbed it first and put it aside. All right? There's people out there with money in IRAs, 401ks, and still have credit card debt. Look at borrowing from that account, paying off that credit card debt, because you are a victim to slavery if you have credit card debt. Number one. Number two, when you get ready to retire and you got that money built up in that account, at some point in time, tax is going to have to be paid on it, whether it's your spouse or your children. But I've seen families lose in 30 months what it took them 30 years to accumulate because the kids blew the money and then ended up having to pay tax at a 30-some% rate, okay? We talked about life insurance. As you get older, life insurance costs more money. Well, what about taking that IRA that you don't plan on using, you're beyond 59 and a half, taking money out, paying tax on the money you take out, buy life insurance with it, because guess what? When you die, life insurance is tax-free. All right? There's no charge for that one. I'm gonna charge you for this one though. That money is sitting there in that IRA account still. Do you realize that you can make a donation, a tithe to your church, to the Urban League, to any other charity that you choose, as long as you're beyond 59 and a half and not pay tax on it? And they can have full receipt of that. So anybody, as soon as you get back, you probably got check writing privileges on it. I want you to go home, write it out to the Urban League in the amount. Seriously, whatever that charity is, you've got money sitting there. You're going to pay tax on it unless you manage it properly. So make sure you do your tax planning.
Okay. I just want to say amen.
Oh, you can do better than that. You can do better than
You
that.
said that's for the first one was free.
No, you give him a big hand because that is so right. When you are like at the retirement age, you're going to be looking at when do I need to pull out money and when I don't want to spend, and be in the position of having to pay a lot of taxes. So my husband and I are actually looking at that right now. So thank you for that advice, because I really need it like right now. I just wanted to say one other thing. Monique Winston, who is the president of the Cleveland Real Estate Association, was supposed to be here today. And I got a note from her that she had just lost her best friend to COVID last night, and she has her kids. And she also thought it was kind of virtual, but she is trying to get into Atlanta and do some things and cover for people. But if Monique was here, one of her goals is to make sure that people know that buying a home is also one of the best investments that you can make in your life. And I work with Monique quite a bit. And we try to teach people about what you need to do in order to fix your finances, in order to be in a position to buy a home. And it is a major investment. And when you take out loans to do your home and all of that, just think about if you took out a 15-year loan, 15 years down the line, you have paid it off and you have a major asset in which you could do a lot of things with that major asset. You can help finance your kids' college education if that's what you needed to do at that point, but it just gives you a chance to do other things with your dollars if you have that home in your portfolio. So I just wanted to bring that up because if Monique was here, that's what she would do. And she's one of my very good friends. So thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you all. Taking a step back for a second, talked a lot about insurance, and the reason why I brought up what specific types. I, for a short month period, in internship wise, worked for Northwestern Mutual. So I was out there trying to see if I could sell insurance, show my friends the importance of insurance. But many people from where I come from, where we all come from, that's at the back of their mind. That's not something, like you said, it's not important until you die. Then you're scrambling for money and things of that nature. But as a millennial, that also ties in with student loans. Student loans is a big aspect of, I need to pay this so I'm not going to pay for this. So this question is kind of generalized to the entire panel. You know, statistically, we suffer from high delinquency of student loans. Can you offer any advice on how to manage student loans? Please, yeah, somebody, please, because, hey, Morehouse in law school was not cheap. So help a brother out, please.
So that's one of the biggest threats to people buying homes right now. And so a lot of the young people do have those high situations with the school student loans. But guess what? You got to pay it off. You got to put yourself in a position that you got to pay it off. You got to put yourself on a plan, and you got to make sure that you are in connection, in contact with the people that you owe money to come up with a strategy or a debt plan in order to show that also to the bank when it's time for you to come and buy a home. But you got to put together a strategy. Both my kids have college debt, not a lot because they were able to escape from some of the high ends of it, but they still got it and they're paying it off. But you got to keep on paying it off, and you got to pay attention to the debt, and you got to talk to your debt people.
So earlier today, I can't remember her name, but the president of the Urban League here was talking about her buying a car. Right? She saved money. Her dad taught her, this is what you do to save money or to be able to buy a car. There are a number of different vehicles, no pun intended, that will help your child reduce their student loan debt before they even get into school. 529s and other college savings plans that are out there that are, you know, just everyone sells them. Everyone talks about them. We hear about the Ohio Savings Plan and everything like that. Being connected with a professional, State Farm, financial advisor, whomever, saying, you know what, this is what I want for my kids. How do I get there? And being intentional, I'm going to come back to that word that Dr. Kimbro brought up, being intentional about it. This is what I want for my child. This is the best way to get there. You know, the saying goes, where there is no vision, the people cast off restraint. Well, if you have a vision for your child to go to college, let's start, instead of buying them the $60, $70 video game, maybe putting a little bit aside every month, every paycheck over the course of 18 years. And maybe by the time that child graduates college, I'm not saying that all of that student loan will be taken care of, but a good portion of it will be. One of the things that just baffles me, I live in Medina, a rather affluent area. And I talked to some of my neighbors. Of course, I'm the only person of color there. And one of the things that they constantly talk about is these houses that they're living in, $300,000-$400,000 houses that they're living in. Not me, I'm on the lower end of that. Their parents pay for the down payment. And I'm sitting up here like, man, must be nice. It's because the generational, not necessarily wealth, the generational knowledge that is being passed down. Yes, and wealth, yes, you're right. Wealth is one thing, wealth is just a vehicle, but the knowledge behind it is where, again, in the age of information, we're way behind. You know what I mean? So, all right, I'm gonna get off my soapbox and let the other panelists chime in.
I know all about student loan debt. The average student loan debt across the country is more than $25,000. But the fact of the matter is there's good debt and bad debt, and student loan debt is labeled as good debt if you manage it properly. I tell my students all the time, I'm glad you're here and I'm honored that you're taking my class, but I don't need to see you if you're going to be enamored with student loan debt, you know, by the time that you graduate. And what is the key? Only borrow what you need and make sure that you're in an area in which there are, you know, in a discipline in which there are opportunities. All right, you have got to maximize it. And how do you maximize it? There's all types of opportunities through internships and through programs, even while you're in school, to pay the debt while you're still in school. So the key is, all right, know your field, constantly know how much that meter is running. And like you said, yes, there is a correlation between student loans and the economy, particularly. There are 11 sectors in the economy. Healthcare is a sector, transportation sector, sports and entertainment, and housing. And if you really want to see this economy go bonkers, do something in the area of student loan. And I'm not talking about erase the debt. Just put a cap on the interest. I mean, just control that. I'm not saying, hey, listen, I know all the banks, everybody, you got to make your money. Yeah, you make your money, but just put a cap on that. So, yeah, student loan is, and I was just finishing Obama's book. And man, it blew my mind. He was in his second term when he and Michelle finally paid the student loan debt. But then again, they went to Harvard and Princeton and Columbia. So that's something totally different. I salute Lorain County Community College. And if we have any state legislatures in here, you got to give Lorain County Community College a love offering because, yeah. Add a few more digits into that line item each year because they're doing taxpayers a favor. Number one, kids are coming here and they are getting advanced placement. And instead of going to college for 4 years, they're only going 2 because they're taking classes here. And then on the other side of the table, that's decreasing the cost of education. So they're right in the cusp, and I would tell, the administrator, I would tell the president of Lorain County College, if you're a state administrator, how can I help you become more efficient and more effective because you are affecting my tax base. And that's the thinking that we have got to have at this particular level.
Mr. Hall.
3 specific answers to your specific question about what should you or someone do about student loan debt today. First, to reiterate, find a professional. Healthcare, legal, financial services, these things go together. Taxes, find a professional to help you. Once again, we have many of them in the room. 2, you mentioned community college, Dr. Kimbro. I'm a graduate of community college, as is my wife. We went and got our associate's degree in the state that we intended to go to university. Every credit transferred to the university by design, intentionally. I got 2 degrees for less than the price of 1. That's a decision. The third thing that I'll share with you is something that Aristotle was reported to have said: we are what we repeatedly do. So excellence, therefore, is a habit. It is not an act. Specifically, develop the habit of saving money, which has been referenced many times, but specifically for those of you taking notes, teach your children or yourself or the individual with the student loan debt, take $20, put it in a box. Yes, we can do it at a bank. Obviously, we can invest it. Those things are a challenge for some people, but putting it in a box or in a drawer, under the mattress, start somewhere, but take $20 every paycheck. And when you're comfortable with that habit, now make it 40, right? And you keep going with the habits. Develop habits. Save more money, and therefore you'll have more money to pay off some of that debt. So specific answers to your question. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Hall, we're going to stick with you for a little bit because, as we obviously know, with all the masks and everything that's been going on this past couple of years, COVID has hit big in all aspects of the community. And just how have you seen in your line of work COVID's play on small Black-owned businesses and kind of what help? We know we have the CARES Act, we have the ARP money that's coming in. How can struggling Black businesses get that assistance that they may be looking for?
Here's my thoughts on that question specifically. COVID did impact my role. While I'm not a small business owner per se, the firm that I work for, I operate as such. So I eat what I kill is what one of the things they say in our business and professional salespeople. And so I did some consulting right at the beginning of COVID for agents of another financial services company, some paid consulting. And my message to them is what my message would be to small business owners, even now, as we come out of the back end of COVID, hopefully. Pick up the phone and get to work. Okay? All these things that are happening are a distraction. If you allow them to distract you, then you will be distracted. As my friend Dr. Kevin Elko says, keep the main thing the main thing. If you are a small business owner, that means you have to prospect. That means you have to treat your existing customers very well. It's more expensive to get a new customer than it is to keep an existing customer. So while everyone else is lamenting COVID, watching the clowns and focusing on things that don't matter, Googling who's the best rapper, watching Netflix, et cetera, you as a small business owner should be working on your business. Pick up the phone, get out there, knock on a door, wear your mask, whatever, know your audience. But that's my advice, and that's what I did. And that's why for my day job, my nonprofit is the reason I'm here, but I found the nonprofit on the auspices of my day job. I'm having the best year I've had in 8 years. Because when I was stuck at home on a Zoom, I learned Zoom. Many of my peers and some folks that I manage were complaining about learning Zoom. Complaining has no value. And then I picked up the phone and I made those calls. If somebody didn't want to talk, I called the next person. I kept going. People told me that they were sitting in their underwear and they didn't know which day it was. Well, there's a calendar. Okay, they didn't know what time it was. There are many clocks, they're all around us. But again, get to work while your competitors are doing all these other nonsensical things. You get to work. That's my 2 cents.
One of the things that State Farm did, understanding the impact that the pandemic had on small business, was we made a $100 million commitment over a 5-year period of time, specifically to help support minority-owned business, Black, Hispanic, Latino-owned businesses who were negatively impacted by the pandemic. Now, the method in which we do that at State Farm is we leverage our relationships with CDFIs, Community Development Financial Institutions, who are experts in helping small businesses, right? And so they know how to construct programs, very low interest, or in sometimes practically no interest loans to help these individuals. And so what I would encourage any small business owner to do is do the research to understand who are the CDFIs in your local community. Some of them are very micro-based, some of them operate on a statewide basis, and they'll be more than happy to sit down with you and explore the opportunities that are available. With that in mind, one of the biggest revelations about the pandemic, particularly with Black and Hispanic-owned businesses, was a lack of a technology platform to operate in that environment. And so a lot of businesses who were thriving based on relationships, foot traffic, and a storefront brand and reputation that they built up, when all of that shut down, they did not have a technology platform in order to interact with their customers. So those CDFIs can also either provide upskilling from a technology skill standpoint, or put you in touch with organizations that provide those technology skills, as well as invest in you so that you can build a technology platform to interact with your customers.
And that just wasn't, minority and businesses of color that, had problems with e-commerce and the like. There was a recent article, and I don't know if it was Wall Street Journal, but looking back, Walmart said, in 2020, everything changed because of the pandemic. It finally made us level up in terms of economy in our e-commerce. And what led the way? It was Best Buy. Best Buy out of Minnesota led the way because they were inundated with consumers who needed office equipment to go ahead and conduct the jobs virtually. And they said, we don't know how to do this, but we're going to figure it out. And it was Best Buy that really created what is now called the headless economy. You go in there, there's no head, everything is done online. So Best Buy started it, passed the baton on to Lowe's. Marvin Ellison, who's one of the 4 Black CEOs in Fortune 500 America, said, now, how can we figure this out? And said, you know what? In order to be headless, when they come to the store, they don't come up the drive and pick it up. We'll create lockers for them. Just go ahead and send them a text message and with the code on the locker and pick it up. And then, Home Depot followed, that particular thing. So you're exactly right. But the bottom line in any business, here we are in 2021, you gotta liquidate. You got a zero-based budgeting. I mean, every dollar has got to be able to stand on itself. Number 2 or 3, get relationships with your customers. And not only, and there's 2 particular customers. Number 1, yes, your customer, individual or group of individuals who buy from you, but your non-customers also. I mean, who are those individuals and group of individuals who would use your product or service, but currently aren't using your product or service, but would use it in the future if you made the slightest change or modification too? So know who your customers are and get liquid. Last but not least, man, get liquid. Why? Because money loves speed. What do I mean by that? Opportunity is going to come to and fro, but if you don't have the cash to capitalize on that opportunity.
So Fifth Third is a huge supporter of small businesses, African-American businesses, brown and Black businesses, by way of supporting many technical assistant organizations that are providing folks, businesses, a way to learn how to change around some of their platforms. But the one thing that I seen and have witnessed and have learned is a lot of our small businesses pre-COVID, we used to showcase them at some of the events that we would have in our corporate footprint at some of our major events. And so they would have had products to sell, whether it was body creams, deodorants, perfumes, or hair stuff, what have you. And so we love showcasing them. And then when COVID hit, they decided that they were able to sell through Etsy or sell through other platforms, and they were able to get their product out of the warehouse, which was a lot of fun. Well, a lot of fun, but I say it was a lot of fun because I was ordering from home. A lot of the products that I use are basically from minority business entrepreneurs, from my, I shouldn't say this, but from my deodorant to my hand cream to my hair stuff. So to me, it was just important to make sure that we support the growth and development of those organizations as they exist.
So the Bible says, in this world, there will be trouble. It's one of the promises that is made that we kind of like to forget. And what COVID has done is it's one of those problems. You know, from a small business, I consider family units a small business. I mean, you know, whatever. And knowing that trouble will come, in my practice, one of the things that I vehemently propose and make sure my clients have is an emergency fund, because trouble will happen. One of the things that this pandemic has really shed a light on is how fragile we are. The slightest thing. I mean, I'm not saying COVID is slight, but you know. So from a small business perspective, all right, what are your operating costs monthly? All right, if the stuff hits the fan like it did last March, how long would you be able to survive with no foot traffic? How long would your family be able to meet all of their monthly obligations if you were to lose your job? The standard used to be having 3 to 6 months of living expenses in an emergency fund. I believe COVID may have adjusted that up a little bit, more like 6 to 12 months of living expenses in an emergency fund, separate from your savings account. You know, Dr. Kimbro was talking about, being liquid. All right, yes, this is liquid money, but it's a little bit more difficult for you to get your hands on because you never really know what becomes an emergency until you get hungry.
Yeah.
And need that pizza, and that's an emergency. No, let me dip into that emergency fund. So I say all of that to say, have an emergency fund, whether you're a family, individual, small business, that will alleviate a ton of stress, anxiety, and it might be the only thing that keeps your doors open.
Trouble don't last always,
But it's
joy.
gonna come.
Amen. Well, thank you guys so much. We have about 10, 15 minutes left for my questionnaire. Then we're gonna go to, there's a few questions from the audience and some questions on Zoom. So my last question is just kind of like an overall summary wrap-up kind of question. And I'll each give you guys a minute and a half. How do you define financial wellness? How does one get there? Share some brief strategies. And in whatever order you guys want to go.
Financial wellness. Well, it's not keeping up with the Joneses.
Say that again. Say that again.
You know, I have this app, it's called My FICA, and anytime there's a change on my credit score, I know it immediately because I know that's the power that I have to leverage as I move forward down the road. When I was younger and I was doing fee-based financial planning, I found a lot of people were coming to me because they were in debt. And I felt guilty trying to charge someone that was in debt. But it's like trying to lose weight. If you don't pay that trainer, you're not gonna watch what you eat. And what I found out was so many people were doing their best to keep up with their neighbors and they didn't realize what their neighbors were doing or how their neighbors were doing. So you have to be secure within yourself, number one. That's what's critical for financial wellness. Discipline, again. This car market, we are so used to right now going out getting a new car every 2 to 3 years. If you're overpaying for a car right now, 2 to 3 years later, you are going to be underwater. And what I mean by that is you are going to owe more on that car than what it's worth. So financial wellness is driving that car for an extra couple years. Just because your neighbor got a new car doesn't mean you need a new car right now. I'm seeing people buy real estate right now. No, Mr. Vall, I wasn't talking to you. You get a new car. I'm seeing people buy real estate right now, and they're in such competitiveness for these houses because they want them so bad. Number one, they're not even asking for inspections. Number two, the appraisals are coming back true, and they're bringing cash to get that house when they should be staying right where they are right now. So financial wellness is discipline. I see people making over $250,000 a year and they're in debt because they're spending more than $250,000 a year. So at some point in time, we've got to realize that pride goeth before destruction and a hardy spirit before the fall. So stay humble. If you're in a relationship, financial wellness says that you two aren't operating two budgets. If you can't say amen, just say ouch. But just because he went out and bought some golf clubs and you got to go out and buy a new dress, it don't work that way. So financial wellness is saying stay on the same page. I could go on and on, but I'm out of time, so.
There's been a lot shared already. I'm going to try to keep my answer very simple. We've heard about studying, doing your research, sitting with a professional. We talked about taking action. We've heard about being consistent. We heard about being prepared for the worst. So I'm gonna sum it up in 4 phrases. Financial wellness. See clearly. Act correctly. Stay solid. Never fold. That's it.
Financial wellness. You may not come from a wealthy family, but make it your goal that you leave a wealthy family behind. So I was going to, when you know, your last comment, I was thinking about my grandson. I got an 8-year-old grandson, and he got a little side hustle. He stayed, you know, my youngest daughter, my son in Cobb County, and a real nice development and everything.
It's on Zoom. You can mute your Zoom.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. And his little side hustle is that when the neighbors go out of town for a short period of time or extended period of time, he waters their plants while they're gone. And so a few years ago for his birthday, his mother bought him his first pair of Chuck Taylor shoes, you know, the Chuck Taylor Converse. And the color was white, and he really liked his Chuck Taylors, and he wanted to build his collection of Chuck Taylors, and he wanted to get a red pair. And his mom said, no, you didn't even outgrow those. I'm not going to buy you a red pair. When you get ready, blah, 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 we'll get a red. Well, he wanted them. He went online and blah, blah, blah. Long story short, so he got his little side hustle, and one of his, I said, Roman, this is your client. Granddaddy, what's a client? I said, well, it's, you know, your customer, and you got to provide service, water the plant, and, you know, break the soil up and make sure that it's nice and neat and everything. Well, they came back from vacation, and he was counting the days that they would come back so he can get his money payday. And they came back, and the wife, the mother, she didn't come over to pay Roman, and Roman was just, you know, disheartened. No, they didn't pay me, blah, blah, blah. And I said, I said, maybe they need to go to an ATM machine. Maybe they were going to pay you by check, and there could be a number of reasons. But Roman, this is your first lesson in cash flow. Just because you do the work on Monday doesn't mean you're getting paid Monday. I got 2 clients now that I did it. We won't go in there because it's on Zoom. Won't talk about it, but it's going to happen. There are ebbs and flows, and there are high and lows, and that's all a part of money management. And the first key of money management is responsibility. You are responsible for you. Everybody like the suit that I'm wearing? You like the suit that I'm wearing? Looks good, doesn't it? Yeah. Well, I like it too. My wife liked it. That's why she bought it for me in 1997. The car I drive, my daughter said, oh, Dr. Kimbro. And they don't say Dr. Kimbro. They say, Dad, how come you don't have a Mercedes? You need a Mercedes, blah, blah, blah. I said, well, one day I'll get a Mercedes when I get rid of this Lexus right now that has passed 250,000 miles. Spending money that you don't have, trying to impress somebody that you can't stand. That's my response to financial wellness.
Where do I go? So we all have to give, you know, I'm going to assume a majority of us here are men and women of faith. And we will all at some point have to give an account for what we have been blessed with here on this vapor that is called life. And then with that being in mind, discipline, responsibility, caring, These are all things that go into financial wellness. Wellness looks different for every person. I used to tell people, hey, close your eyes and think of what your ideal life would be if you didn't have to work. For some, it's some exotic island in Tahiti. For others, it's just enjoying family. What systems, what mechanisms, what vehicles do you have in place to help you do that? It's that simple. If you want to be able to leave this planet better than when you first came in, if you want to leave this planet giving your kids a little bit of a boost as they try to build their lives, and again, continuing on with this vapor of a life, do it. Do you have things in place to help that? That is financial wellness to me. You can accumulate wealth. I mean, you're not going to take it with you, but you can accumulate it. But wealth is just a vehicle. It's a tool. If that is the goal, I always say, look, getting to the altar is just the start. Marriage takes a whole lot of work afterwards. Getting the wealth is just, getting to that point is just, an event. But you got a whole life legacy after that. So, yes, have a vision. Do not cast off the restraint. And, that would be my answer.
I'll just add that I have been married for 36 years and it is a bunch of work. There's no question about it. But you know what? But here's what you got to think about. I thank God every single day to give me strength to do what I need to do and to even be in front of you today as well. So my words are empower yourself to do what you got to do, to understand what you need to do. And that means staying healthy, eating healthy, sleeping healthy, praying healthy, doing all the things that you need to do to empower yourself to get to the next level. And of course, that includes educating yourself, but empowerment of yourself is key.
I think that deserves a round of applause. Mr. Ballard, my definition of financial wellness first is everything Dr. Kimbro said. And then personally, being comfortable, being financially independent. That's how I personally define financial wellness. I grew up with the government cheese. Our guy earlier was talking about powdered milk and puff rice. I didn't like that. And now, my 3 children and 3 grandchildren each have accounts approaching 6 figures. The oldest is 23 and the youngest is, well, my granddaughter, she's not quite there yet. She's 4 months old. My youngest granddaughter, she's not quite there yet, but we just started her account. But the reason for that is compounding interest. It's one of the most powerful forces known to man and woman, human nature. And when we had the means, as soon as we had the means, we opened accounts for these children that were invested in the stock market, which many people are afraid of, but we put them into accounts that they could not touch without substantial penalties until they reached age 60. So over time, the stock market goes up. If it doesn't, it's the end of civilization and money doesn't matter anymore. And so the day-to-day ups and downs of the stock market aren't relevant if you're an infant and your grandfather put $10,000 into an account for you at birth that doesn't pay taxes until you take money out, and you can't take money out for 60 years. And then the grandfather continues to put money into that account each year if he has a good year and you behave. Now, that's why each of my children and grandchildren will be millionaires individually when they reach retirement age. Not because they bought a lottery ticket, although, you got to play to win. I get that. But unfortunately, too many people, particularly in our community, they go to the lottery, they go to the casino boat, and that's their vision for becoming a millionaire. And as someone said, the lottery is a tax on people who don't understand math. Compounding interest is the opposite. If you can, as I've said before, find a financial professional to help you, then you can find those instruments. If you own a business, you can have your child be an employee and open up what our friend from Prudential has been talking about all day, the Roth IRA. It's one of the most powerful tools known to man. But if you don't own a business, there are other tools that are tax deferred. They don't require you to have to work. You don't have to have a job. My children are cute, but they aren't Gerber babies. And there are no actual limits on how much you can deposit. Those are the type of accounts that I have open for my children, none of whom work except for the older ones. And those accounts have been invested as early as I could possibly do it. And they're 100% in the S&P 500. And when things go up and down, half of them don't even know what's going on. And the other ones that do, they don't care because they understand the time value of money. And so that's a specific tool that can help you and your children get to financial wellness, which is that comfort that when something happens and my daughter says, my ex-husband is kicking me out of the house, I could buy an apartment building and say, here's a unit for you. That's financial wellness, in my opinion, in my experience, in my personal, it's just having the comfort and the ability to do things like that. But specifically to the point that was made earlier, leaving your family better off than you, there's no tool greater than compounding interest. That's my 2 cents.
Let's get a hand clap for our panelists, please. So now we're going to have Q&As from the audience and also Q&As from folks on Zoom. And to be respectful of time, I ask if we can please have two responses to the questions. But I'm asking off Zoom first. Thomas would like to know, would you recommend paying off student loans before investing in a Roth IRA?
You know, everything is based on interest rates and credit scores. So basically, you've made a commitment with that student loan and you've got to honor it. My recommendation is to do both. Change your lifestyle to the point where you are contributing to that Roth and paying down the student loans.
My 2 cents is to reiterate something Dr. Kimbro said during his presentation. Pay yourself first. Pay yourself first. A Roth IRA is a payment to your future self. Compounding interest in time will make that payment to yourself grow exponentially. The student loan debt is the payment to the lender. So yes, obviously do both, but from my personal perspective, pay yourself first.
All right. Johnny asked, how has being financially aware helped you as the panelist in your life? Question is, how has being financially aware helped you as the panelist in your life?
Well, my grandmother, who passed away in 2018, Annie Mae Terry, had a saying that I'm sure a lot of Black grandmothers said. When you know better,
you do better.
You do better. Okay. Somebody had a Black grandmama.
Come on now.
When you know better, you do better. You know, I grew up a free lunch kid in a single parent home in Birmingham, Alabama. I knew none of what we are talking about right now. But I had a mother who worked hard. I had an extended family who loved and cared about me. And I had a mother who was willing to sacrifice to put me in a position to learn better, to know better. One of which included my mother has been a executive assistant, she used to call it secretary, her whole life. And she had gotten to the point where she was supporting the president of a local beverage company in Birmingham. Still wasn't making a lot of money, but pretty good for someone who didn't graduate from college. But she took a pay cut to do the same thing at a local university, Samford University in Birmingham, Alabama, so that I could go to school tuition free. And it's through that experience and the people that I had a chance to meet and mentor with and to know better, and which then transferred into me making decisions like joining State Farm and doing things like investing in a 401k early. That's the first thing somebody told me, say, hey, you need to get one of these things. I don't care what you put in there, but you need to put something in there. And so those things have, just put me on a path of, listening to folks like who are on the panel today and, just being more mature and then passing those things along to my 2 teenage daughters.
Flashing, yeah. Okay. Must ran out of batteries. I think I became financially aware about paying bills by watching my mother put together a notebook and keeping track of all of her bills and making sure that on a monthly basis, the bills were paid. And so I grew up learning about the bill paying side, not as much the saving side, until it was time for me to go to college. And then making sure that when I went to college, I had all my scholarships, all our savings, where I had worked all of my life since I was 14 in savings to make sure that I could pay for stuff. But it wasn't until I got married with my husband that we really worked together to understand and manage our finances. And I think that that's clearly important when you have a partner, that you're working together to understand how money also builds up and how it compounds, interest works.
Real quick, just very quickly. 401ks, yes. But when you change jobs, please do not cash that thing out. You did not just win the lottery. And so in my personal experience, hey, I did it. I didn't know any better. You know what I mean? I didn't know any better. Know better, do better, right? So yeah, the money that's set aside that you're putting in those 401ks or whatnot, let it work for you. Let it work for you.
Thank you. Anyone in the audience, who just raise your hand and we'll have someone come up with the mic. Mayor Jack Bradley. Uh-oh.
First of all, I want to thank all the panelists today for the information that they gave us. I'm a little bit older than Dr. Kimbro, but not much. But what I found out is that you're never too old to learn. And I appreciate all the information. And as my wife and I were sitting here, we would like to have a panel like this go to our high schools and talk to our students, because I'm an old guy, I'm still learning, but our students in high school need this information, and they need all of you to be there to give that information to them. So I'm sending out an invitation to all of you to participate in our high schools, give this information to our young people, give it to them early, because that's when they need it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let me respond to that. I agree 100%. In fact, we're all here as a result of the National Urban League. During the lunch, I got a chance to meet William Shannon from the Ambassador Brothers, another local nonprofit. I also got to meet Mr. Marcus Madison from Community West Foundation. My organization is a nonprofit. The point being, there are a number of organizations at work in your community right now. The 3 local ones here again are the National Urban League, the Ambassador Brothers, and Community West Foundation. Engage with them today to facilitate exactly what this gentleman is talking about. And of course, work with him to go to his high school, but let's use economies of scale and engage with as many as is humanly possible And again, these organizations with their connections can help you do that. We do that. That's what we do. We go to high schools and colleges all over the country because our members live all over the country. And we go in and we teach kids about financial wellness, but specifically about this industry with less than 1% of 1% Black people, financial advisors, underrepresented, bankers, underrepresented, wholesaling. You wouldn't even know we were there.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, in answering the question too, is that Fifth Third Bank has a program called Finance Academy, and we offer it free to high schools throughout our corporate footprint. And it basically is a computer-based program that the students can get on, and it helps out with entrepreneurship as well as just regular financial banking and understanding that. And also for the schools that are involved, they have an opportunity to qualify for a scholarship. So afterwards, if I know your high school, we can make sure that they get signed up.
I would like to get a shout out to our education and youth development students that are here today that are in high school. So y'all wave. They took their Saturday to be here because they recognize that this is important and that they need this knowledge. So I'm so proud of you all. And there's a long journey to go, but it starts today being at these tables and hearing this information, and the future is so bright for you all. So thank y'all for being here. Here you go, Kenny.
Hi, Kenny Glenn, Lorain County Community College Adult Outreach Associate. Real quick, I'm in the business of providing information of education in our community. I get to go out into the community and talk about education and how to connect dots to know better, to do better, right? And what I'm finding, and it hurts my heart, and I should be shocked because I ran across this, is we have an information gap in our society, especially in our community. Knowledge is key, right? And so many of us walk around every day because we're born to people who are supposed to take care of us, who unfortunately in society haven't been taking care of themselves, right? So we have this gap of information that never gets down to us because of who we are around and who we're raised by. And it wasn't until I got grown enough to take control of myself and get knowledge, right? And become aware and know better to do better, right? And it took me a while. I'm 52. Well, I'm 56, but I didn't get my college degree till I was 52. First one in my family. There's a slew. I really don't feel proud about that because I wanted it back when I was 18, right? Really, I did. And it's really the reason why I went into the military. I knew I had some knowledge problems. And when I came back to my community to help out with that. And we have a huge information gap. I can run around all day in Elyria and Lorain County and tell everybody what's going on out at the college, and their eyes get big and like, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. So we got to do a better job of sharing this information. I don't know how we're going to do that. We need to come up with some best practices, but I can tell you, we have a whole community of people who are hurting and don't even know it and don't know how to get help. And even though we do a job, we got jobs we go to every day just to do that, to help people, right? But we can only help those who are trying to help themselves. What about the ones who can't help themselves? What do we do about that?
If everyone here has pens at their table, and I saw a little sheets of paper for taking notes, I've taken a lot of notes, thanks to Dr. Kimbro. My ask is that everyone pick up their pen right now, find some things that you can write on, and write down my name. It's Marlon. The last name is Hall. The only social media I do and I'm allowed to do by my employer is LinkedIn. Connect with me on LinkedIn today. And our organization has people who do what I do in every major market in the United States of America. They are Black individuals. That's what our group is. And they have to do what I tell them. So if I tell them we're going to go talk to your high school, then that's what we're going to do. So I've heard two speakers now say we need to plug the information gap, but today's comments from my peers were insights. Information is just stuff. This is stuff that you can use, that you can put to work today. Knowledge is only as valuable as what you do with it. And so please take this information today, make them insights and put them to work for you. But please connect on LinkedIn today because we're ready to get to work. like I said during the question about COVID, get to work. A lot of talk. Now we need to act.
I've always been a huge proponent of financial education. In other words, bringing wealth creators into the classroom to just share, their idea, their ideologies, philosophies, and best practices of not only how they may have built a business or how they accrued wealth. And over a 20-something year period, I've had a who's who speak in my class. I mean, Steve Harvey spoke in my class, Ayanna Van Zant, Tavis Smiley, Tyrese Gibson, Dikembe Mutombo, on and on and on and on. Now, the fact of the matter is that, yeah, it's nice for them to come in and speak in the class, but these folks can reach people in a different way. And when they shed the light on how they got started and what they did and really get into the nuances of what business and money management and finances, encompasses, it just makes a world of difference. So that might be something that I don't know the type of, here at Lorain County, but number one, you got to start early because it has never been so easy to start a business now than ever in the history of this country. If you have the following two items, you're really in business for yourself. Number one, if you got a cell phone with broadband access and a point of view, you're in business. And it's only going to get easier because in the next 18 months, we're going to go from 6.8 million people on cell phones to 8.2 billion people on cell phones. So number one, start early. Number two, going back in time, I mean, when Peter Drucker was writing his books in the 1970s and this, that, and everything, I mean, business was brick and mortar. So if I had $1 and you had $1 and we got together, that's $2. Business today is about ideas. If I have an idea and you have an idea and we get together, we can change the world. So what am I saying? You don't dismiss anything. Everything is on the table at this particular point. Whenever Steve Jobs got an idea and he went to his product designers and his staff and said, I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking about that, and they gave him pushback and said, oh, Steve, we can't do that. His response was always the same. His response always, look, stop trying to steal my dream. Don't try to steal my dream. We need dreamers, we need visionaries. And we need dreamers and visionaries in emerging markets. Emerging markets.
Thank you, thank you. Any other questions from the audience?
I don't have a question, but I'd like to make a statement. I believe you all are amazing, inspiring leaders. We need you in our lives. What I really love about you is you speak from your own personal testimonies. We can relate to you by your stories. So often individuals speak above people and they don't get it. And I really, really want to applaud you that continue to be authentic. Continue to tell your stories. You inspire and allow other people to tell theirs. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have time for a few more questions.
Hi. First, I want to say thank you to all of you guys up there on the panel. I'm super nervous. I really don't do this, but I'm stepping out my comfort zone right now. Hopefully I don't tear up because I do that too. But I want to thank you guys again. I'm coming from a whole different county. I'm from Erie County. I joined the DEI Council Board in my organization at my job. I won't say the name because I came on my own. I'm not with them right now. So if you want to talk personally, we can, and we can exchange that information. But anyways, I came here because I'm a member of the DEI Council, and I had kind of volunteered myself to help with the youth and the financial literacy part. And when I got when I seen the flyer on one of my friends' Facebook pages about diversity and inclusion, I just said, I'm gonna go to that because I wanna know more about diversity and inclusion. But at the same time, I didn't know the theme until Ms. D had sent me the email after I already asked for the information. And struggling with financial literacy, trying to teach others about financial literacy, I was kind of trying to stand back from taking that volunteer part because I didn't know too much about it myself. So coming here and stepping out my comfort zone, but not only that, the knowledge that I needed was right before me. But if I never ever said anything about coming, I would never known that God placed everything right before me. So I want to thank you guys first of all for that. And also, I don't know if Erie County has much of urban leagues around our county, because like I said, I'm still new to DEI. But if anybody knows, or if you guys can come with me to my county, I would like to go to our Boys and Girls Club, our schools in our county as well, but I just need support. I need voices, because my little voice, as you guys can hear, is shaking right now. So if I can just get help in directing me of how I can take this to Erie County, to the schools, to the Boys and Girls Club, I would definitely appreciate that. And again, thank you guys so much, because you guys don't know how to all bless me.
We will help you. The locals for sure will help you. I live in Denver, Colorado. I will help you. Hold us accountable. If you took my name down, great, but our names are in these brochures. Connect with us and hold us accountable. We will help you.
And let me say this, one of the most difficult things for us as human beings to do is ask for help. And I want to applaud you for being brave. It is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of courage. It's a sign of strength. You are probably the bravest person in this room right now.
Amen.
Okay? You have everything that you need to accomplish your goals. You come from the strongest of your people, by the way. You know why? Because your people made it. They made that trip. You have everything you need. And I just want to remind you of that, okay? All right.
If I could say something real quick, you said Erie County, correct? What part of Erie County?
Sandusky.
Okay, all right. I am closer than you know. Make sure someone gives you my number. We're gonna support you, we're gonna surround you, and we're gonna make sure that you can reach out and touch everybody you need to touch.
Hello, my name is Andrea Boyd. I work for the Minority Business Assistance Center with the Urban League of Greater Cleveland. I am also the business advisor for Lorain, Erie, Huron, and Cuyahoga County. So I can definitely help you with what you need. So you are in the right place. And I just want to say thank you so much for everyone up there on the panel. You are giving people the financial literacy tools that they need. I see businesses on a daily basis that have been in business for years and don't even have a business plan. So at that point, I'm like, okay, you're hustling and we need to get you to the point where you are running a legitimate business. So I'm just honored to be here today. I'm excited. This excites me. I will be reaching out to every last one of you up there on the panel, definitely. And I will be getting your information before I leave. Thank you.
Real quick, how many business owners are in the audience? Individual business owners. Okay, two things real quick. You have a unique ability. Whatever your business is, you have a unique ability. The problem is we stay in the weeds. Focus on your unique ability and hear me carefully, hire out the rest. And I know for a fact right now you're saying don't nobody want to work. There's no situation you can't hire yourself out of. You have to, recruiting is a 24/7 job, and you have to stay focused on finding the right people for your business to succeed. That and that alone will take you to that next level. But if you stay in those weeds, you'll never see the glory that's to come to you.
Unfortunately, I've been giving the red light. These panelists will be here though, I assume shortly after. So if there's any questions that you want to ask them directly, feel free to please come up and ask them. But let's just give a big round of applause for our panelists.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. How are we feeling? How are we feeling? Good, good. Well, I want to start off by saying thank you so much to State Farm for your partnership. It's been really exciting, all the work that we've been able to do together in the community. And this event wouldn't have been a success without your partnership, so thank you. I also want to thank our other sponsors, Lorain County Community College, Huntington Bank, and Mercy Health. I also want to give a special thank you to Dr. Kenneth Kimbro. If we can give him another round of applause for today. I've had the pleasure of spending yesterday and today driving him around, taking him to all the places he needs to be, and he's been full of inspiration and just great stories to share, and I really enjoyed it. So thank you again. And you mentioned something earlier when you were speaking about nobility and how that means, being able to learn from each other. And when I thought of that, the first thing that I wrote down was our affiliate. You notice that me, Dee, Paris, Miss Ruthie, Arnitha, we're not all the same age. We bring a lot of different experience to the table, and we're working in excellence every day because we have that multi-generational workplace, and we are allowing each other to learn. Ms. D gives so much wisdom. Every day I get to show her how to work a Zoom and how to post on Facebook. And I get to help Paris edit videos, and now Paris can film videos and edit videos. So it's really good. I didn't think my film degree was gonna come into play when I got into nonprofit, but here we are. So I'm gonna shorten this up now. But I also wanna thank our panelists. Going back to nobility, I really do feel like today we've been able to learn from each other and really think about how we can become financially well, how we can think about growing our generational wealth. That's something that I've been thinking a lot about lately. And so I'm just grateful for all the information we got today from everybody, and just for everybody being so open and vulnerable. Paris beat me to this, but I wanted to give a special shout out again to our youth who at 9 a.m. could have been doing anything else and decided to be here today and joining us in learning. So if we could give them another round of applause, I'd really appreciate that. Thank you. And lastly, thank each and every one of you who purchased a table or bought a ticket to be here today and to learn. It's been great to be with you, even though I've been running around doing all kinds of stuff, but just to see new faces and similar faces, I'm very grateful for you all supporting the Urban League today. Please have a safe weekend. Remember to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram by searching UC Urban League. And stay in touch with us. If you need to get on our newsletter, you can email Ms. D at outreach@lcul.org. Stay up to date on everything that we're doing. So thank you again. Have a great weekend.